Right, we are live. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Kiwi Lads channel. We are here for the last day of international rugby for the weekend. Only one more game taking place after this one. And then from there, we've got Ireland versus Australia next week. But for now, it is Scotland at Murrayfield taking on the Wallabies, a side that have done extremely well throughout their November internationals thus far, getting themselves the big win over England, then also the win last week. But looking through at the starting lineups for these two sides, for Scotland, they've got a couple big returns in this match, and it can come at a very good time because, Scotland, they've been a little bit up and down. They've had some great games throughout November, but they've also had a couple matches that they weren't quite able to find their full stride. Pierre Schoeman, Ewan Ashman, and Xander Fagerson, they will be the front row. A very strong one going up against this Wallabies. For back today, Grant Gilchrist and Scott Cummins. He returns from his injury. Well, not an injury, sorry, his suspension, which was a very interesting call, we will say that, but now he is back and raring to go. For the Scottish, Jamie Ritchie, Rory Darge, and Matt Fagerson, they will make up the back three in that loose forward trio. Ben White and Finn Russell, the 19 combination. Russell, it's very unpredictable what that man is going to be doing. He's going head-to-head with Noel Alessio, so we'll have to see whether or not it's the experience or the little bit of inexperience for the Australians that gets the better of that battle. Sione Tuipulotu and Hugh Jones in the midfield. A lot of power, a lot of pace. Duan Fundermerva, Darcy Graham returns as well. And then Blair Kinghorn at number 15 for this matchup. For the Australians, in their side, it is Angus Bell, Matt Faisler, and Alan Alatoa, Jeremy Williams, and Will Skelton will be the locking duo. They've just said there the 14 changes to the Scottish starting lineup. So, yes, certainly some switches have been made for this game. Rob Ballatini at number 6, Carlo Tizzano at 7, and Harry Wilson slotting in as the number 8. He will also be the captain of this Wallabies side. That loose forward trio, the work rate of Carlo Tizzano partnered with Wilson, and then that power game of Ballatini will be must-see TV. Jake Gordon as the number 9, with number 10 being Noel Alessio. In the midfield, Len Ikatel starts at 12 with Joseph Suali'i. After his successful debut for the Australians, getting himself man of the match, he will now be back in that midfield combo. A wizard out on the wing, Harry Potter, in that number 11 jersey. Bet you get sick of hearing that. Andrew Callaway out on the right, and then Tom Wright at number 15. We're looking through at the chat. We have got go the Wallabies from Sakabulla. How many Scots are actually Scottish? Says Salah. And then hello, Amish, says Sakabulla. And hi, how are we doing today? Says Yako Robertson. And DuPont not nominated, says Sakabulla. That is true. We did see, in the end, the 4 nominations, 3 of which the South Africans, and then also Caelan Doris, the other man who got himself nominated for Rugby Player of the Year. Now that I think about it, even in the breakthrough players section, I don't think we saw any French players. We saw Jamie Osborne, Wallace Atiti, Sasha Feinberg, Ngome Zulu, and then Fiwa Bosso was the last man in that category. And we have Gadesa Player of the Year awards tonight. My bet on Colby, but of course won't mind any other box nominated, says Sakabulla. And there as well, Springboks to win 45 points to 5, says Yako. Call me Sally. Okay, I can do, rather than the other name. But now we have got there the benches for this one. Richardson, Sutherland, and Hurd as the front row replacements. Craig and Bayliss will be 19 and 20. Then George Horn, Tom Jordan, and Kyle Rowe, the rest of the replacements. Brendan Poyanga Mosa to make his way, it says off the bench, but for me, he's in the starting lineup as well, so we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Isaac Kailea and Zane Ungor as the number 18. Lukan Salakai Lotto and Lingy Gleeson, so just going with the 5-3 split here for the Wallabies. Then Tate McDermott, Ben Donaldson, and Max Jorgensen as the other replacements. But so far for these two sides, Scottish, they have had 3 matches. They won their first one comfortably up against the Fijians, 57 points to 17. The one that they'll be disappointed with was this middle match, 32 points to 15 up against the South Africans. It could have been a lot closer, but Scotland just couldn't quite find their rhythm in that game. To lose that one by 17 points and to not score a try, I think is the thing that would have really annoyed the Scottish. And then also they had their game up against Portugal last week, winning at 59 points to 21 for the Australians. They were able to get the big win over the Welsh last week, 52 points to 20, but the week prior to that having one of the biggest upsets of the November internationals so far, and that is the win over the English. At Twickenham, 42 points to 37. Not many people saw it coming. And like I said, they were the biggest underdogs when it came to the odds so far in terms of who's been able to pull off an upset. So a big win for the Australians. They're currently 2 in a row. They're looking to make it 3 and then 4 with Scotland and then Ireland as their next game. And that will be taking place next week. That is going to be kicking off at 4:10 a.m. on Sunday morning New Zealand time. So that is 5:10 for you guys in South Africa, and also in the Northern Hemisphere. I believe it's also 4:10 p.m. kickoff taking place for the match. But in the chat we have got there, Turkish from Cyprus, says Sally, and there, and thinks Satiti will be breakthrough player. And cool, South African here says Sakabula there. But yeah, I think Satiti out of those 4 is the most likely. Like, yes, I know a few South Africans want to see Sasha Feinberg, Ngume Zulu get the award, but at the end of the day, he just hasn't had enough game time throughout this year. So I think that if he hadn't got injured and he was playing in these November internationals, it would have been a lot more likely for him to get it. And who knows, maybe they give it to Jamie Osborne. I was a little bit surprised when I saw his name, but at the end of the day, maybe there is a reason he's in there. Maybe that is why he is there, is because they're going to award him with it. I'd like to see Suoli at fullback. That would be interesting, says Harlem. And that's the thing. He's a very versatile player. So he can slot into, I would say, about 3 or 4 different positions in this backline. They've decided that outside centre at the moment is the best place for him, but that doesn't mean that's where he'll stay. He could end up switching later on in this contest. I think they'll just want to get his fundamentals right, though, for Union. I think the perfect man to partner him with is Lee Nikitau. Lee Nikitau, very good at his defensive work and then also just being right place, right time. So I feel like that will teach Suoli'i quite a lot. Hello, mate, says Flesh, and welcome in, mate. Hope you are doing well. And Pity Sasha got injured, says Sakabula. Yeah, I think the race between him and Satiti, it would have been a lot more competitive had it not been due to that injury. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Does it get the awards? So what time is it in South Africa that the awards are taking place? Sakabula, do let me know. Scotland to win, let's go, says Robert Wood. And at the chat, they have just got there. Scotland have won 6 of their last 7 games. Now, they were playing in July. They were in an American tour side of things, playing up against the likes of USA, Chile. I think they had a game up against the Canadians as well. So they probably haven't really been properly tested. Up against Fiji, they didn't really get that full stride. And then up against the Springboks, they just couldn't really find their rhythm. I got no idea, Amish, says Sakabula. Good evening, bro, says Zion. And Scotland to win, let's go. And overall in the betting odds and in terms of the overall percentages, this is the closest one in terms of the chance of a upset, really. Like the other games, we saw Wales were huge underdogs. We saw Italy were huge underdogs, even though they had a pretty strong showing. In the first match of the weekend that we covered, Argentina versus France. You know, Argentina weren't given much of a chance. Fiji versus Ireland. That one wasn't very close in terms of the odds. And then this one, you know, it's almost a pick 'em, but Scotland have got the home field advantage and also a bit of a winning streak behind them. So they come in as the slight favourite. I wonder if Tonga will fall out of the top 20, says Raffle Sear. It depends a little bit in terms of who they're going to be playing. Like, it's a shame about Samoa not getting any game time throughout these November internationals. That was due to a bit of financing. But currently in the world rankings, we'll have another look and we'll see what can happen for today. Like, Tonga are currently 19th. They'd have to work pretty hard to drop out of the top 20 because, like, Romania are on 64.13 compared to Tonga's 65.94. But then the next team down is Chile, and they are 21st with 61.72. So unless Chile pull off a big upset somewhere along the way, or we do end up seeing, you know, Tonga lose to Namibia or someone like that who's a little bit further down in the rankings, I don't think there's a huge amount that can really go wrong for them. Like, they're up against Georgia, but they can't lose any points whatsoever. If they beat Georgia, though, in that game, Tonga will actually boost themselves up to 17th in the overall rankings. So, you know, there's actually quite a bit on the line for the Tongans. They can't go out of this game without some sort of, like, bonus, I guess you could say. Like, yes, they could end up with 0 points, but still not dropping down. So massive opportunity for the Tongans if they can beat the Georgians, and that would drop Georgia from 12th to 14th, bringing Japan up a little bit. It's just like if Japan were to beat England somehow, Australia would actually boost themselves up to 7th in the overall rankings, and if they were able to beat Scotland, they would go up to 6th. So, could be a little bit of a late switch in the rankings before the end of the year. And 3:23 hours in South Africa now, says Andre. And hi, Hamish, can we have your prediction, please, says Eugene. This game, honestly, throughout the whole weekend, I've avoided giving a prediction for, because I can't split these two sides. If Scotland are playing like they did in their first game up against the Fijians, they should win this game relatively comfortably. But Australia, in their game up against the English, showed even when they are down, that they can find a way of getting back into a game. So I think it's going to be a full 80-minute one. And Australia will really have to test that Scottish defence, because Scotland are known for being able to make tackle after tackle. And the last time that they versed a top side, Scotland were unable to score. That was up against the Springboks. So they'll have plenty to prove here. They'll want to score multiple tries in a row. Head says Scotland, Heart says Australia, says Sakabola. And yeah, both sides are actually in a pretty good place at the moment. You know, they've said about Scotland winning 6 of their last 7. Of course, some of those games up against lower sides, like we saw last week up against the Portuguese. But, you know, it's still a very impressive record. And then you've got Australia, side who headed to the Northern Hemisphere with not a lot of expectation behind them. And now, if they were somehow able to win this, they'd go into that game up against the Irish, 3 wins in a row. And then that can bring a lot of awesomeness for that contest. So I don't know who I actually want to win in this game. I just hope that it's a really entertaining contest. I don't think we've had a game of the weekend as of yet. And that might sound harsh, but I just find when games are a little bit one-sided, they don't really live up to the expectations. Like France versus Argentina at times was entertaining in terms of the back and forth, but it was always in control of the French. The Fiji versus Ireland game, it just unfortunately wasn't that great. We never really saw Fiji find second gear. You're looking simply fabulous again. Home been shopping, says Ruth, so hopefully it's all gone well for your Ruth. They're just showing there, Gregor Townsend. One-sided games are boring, says Raffle Seer. And that's why I enjoyed Italy versus the All Blacks to a certain extent. Because at the end of the day, Italy actually really showed up a lot better than people expected. Last time that those two sides played, New Zealand won at 96 points to 17. This time Italy had them nervous for the last kind of 15 or so minutes. But yeah, I think this one shouldn't be split by more than 10. And if it was, I'd be extremely surprised. And ouch, Hamish, just cut me with that sharp outfit, says Joseph. Welcome in, mate. If you are doing extremely well, Australia win over Wales was the first time they have passed 50 points since beating Japan in 2017, is the stat that's just come up. So that's quite impressive. They've had an opposition get over 50 points up against them. We saw that for Argentina in the Rugby Championship. As a neutral, let's just have a good game. Predict 28 points to 24 to Australia. 1 score difference, says Eugene. I think a lot of people would take that in terms of if we just had, you know, that less than 10, less than 5 even. Bring a bit of drama to the later stages of the game. And hopefully just a free-flowing contest. We saw Fiji versus Ireland was actually about 2 hours and 2 minutes long. Scotland by 15, says George. And also, I love these Kiwi Lads rockers. They're funny, says Ruth. And got to be Outback Aussie Kangaroos today, says Ruth. And of course, there is still a game taking place later on, Japan versus England. If that game goes the way that we are anticipating, it could be pretty one-sided. But I do hope that there's a little bit of a situation that happens and maybe we get a close game there too. And well, Aluku's back with his track pants on, King Hammy, says Ponku. And there as well, welcome in, mate. Aussies for the win, but it ain't going to be huge, just a few points. And Wallabies have some confidence in their camp. I reckon they'll take it, says Zion. Well, that's the thing. They've come into this game with, like I said, a lot more momentum than some anticipated. Not many people had them winning their first game up against the English. Australia can do this, says Zenda. I don't know if we can say the same about the cricket at the moment, though. The Aussies really struggling in that department. I think it's going to be over by the end of today, unfortunately. So I might have to try and set an alarm so that I'm up We got Andrew Callaway. I think that was last year, wasn't it? He ended up playing the bagpipes for, I think it was either Bernard Foley or Michael Hooper. I think it was Michael Hooper that he played Happy Birthday for. And Scotland is a good team. Says Robert. And who's your Aussie man at the moment, Amish? I mean, a lot of people are talking about Joseph Suaalii at the moment, but he does have to back up his last performance. Getting man of the match, he will think rugby union's easy. But this game could be a big reality check if he isn't on song with his defence, which we did see tested at times up against the English. We saw him leak a try or two. But, of course, that got overshadowed by his work on attack and his ability to keep that ball alive for the Australians. I think that Harry Wilson, this is the type of game that really suits him up against a powerful Scottish outfit. How would you rate New Zealand season out of 10, Hamish? Who's your New Zealand Player of the Year? My New Zealand Player of the Year has to go to Wallace Satiti. I mean, the fact that he wasn't getting selected near the start of the year, there was the injury to Ethan Blackadder, so Robertson went, I guess I have to play someone there, and then Satiti has done what he's done. I'll definitely give it to him. In terms of an out of 10 season, you're in that situation. New Zealand won 10 out of their 14 games, which isn't too bad of a winning rate. They lost 2 games up against the world champs in South Africa, which you can almost say, you can let them away with. Because at the end of the day, not many sides go to South Africa and pull off the wins. And definitely not when they're so close in both of those matches. They lost to Argentina and New Zealand. That was a poor one. And then their other loss was to France at the Stade de France. But as we know, it's quite hard to beat them in France as well. So I'd still give it like a 6 or a 7. I think the biggest concern is the fact that we didn't really learn anything from this year. It's been the same lineup over and over again, and there hasn't really been any sort of experimentation. And when there was, the side won comfortably. The game up against the Fijians and the game up against the Japanese, going with slightly different lineups and having brilliant games. Going with the same combo each and every week up against the top sides, where you see Rico Ioane constantly struggling, and you see, that debate of whether or not Barrett is the 10 or McKenzie. There's just a lot of questions that are still not answered for the All Blacks. Who's going to be the future 7? We don't really know, because other than the occasional game where we see someone come in due to an injury, it's been Sam Cane the whole time. At 6.5 for the box, definitely not 10 out of 10, says George. See, that's the thing, the Springboks, I think it's a humble score overall, because even though they've got 3 wins from 3, they've still been far from perfect throughout November. But you're in that scenario of they haven't exactly struggled too much at the same time. They beat England by 9, which I think is their most notable win that they've managed to have, and also keeping the Scottish scoreless in terms of the tries. But overall, because they didn't face France and because they didn't face Ireland, we never really got to see that next gear for the Springboks and then put out their massive side again, they had up against the English. If you click like on my phone, then on the TV, does it give you 2 likes? I'm not sure. It depends on what you're signed in with on your TV, I guess. Harry Wilson is the kind of number 8 every team needs. England have missed a number 8 like their own Morgan for years. Scotland have Bayliss, Crosby, Ferguson, Dempsey. All 6.5s, not number 8s. Says Powerbite. Why do the All Blacks only need 1 fly half? Can't they have 2? Well, that's the thing. Having 2 makes sense, because that way you're still having one of them off the bench. But it's in terms of who starts. That's the really big thing for people, is some don't like to see, let's say if you're a Beauden Barrett fan, it seems to be that no stage in the All Blacks that they want to see McKenzie in the starting side. And then if you're a McKenzie guy, they don't want to see Beauden Barrett in the starting side. But there are times where you could actually see both of them in that team, but we didn't really see that experimented with too much. Roygaard also seems impressive. Yeah, he's done really well since coming back from his injury. So then, of course, they've got Cortez Ratama, who unfortunately didn't have the best game up against the French off the bench. So now people are kind of disregarding him, which is pretty brutal, seeing as he was literally a standout for them throughout the Rugby Championship. But it just shows that, one bad game can be what people judge you off for a very long time. I think I'm going to be doing a video at some stage soon, which will be my early July Internationals All Blacks prediction. in terms of what I think they could go with, or in terms of what I would like to see next year, might be an idea for the channel. Because, of course, we've got a long international break from rugby, so we'll have a few videos popping out. Hey, mates, hope everybody had a great day so far. Greetings from Germany. Says Just, welcome in, mate. Hope you are keeping very well. And Aussie, oi, oi, oi. Says Ponko there. I think the Wallabies are going to win, says OB, and come on the Wallabies. And Advanced Australia men, for We Are Young and Free, like the Aussies anthem. It's more catchy than New Zealand. And also we have got everyone in Scotland has talked up this game. They know it is the biggest, most equally matched test they will have had in a long time. Hopefully no silly cards. And also we've got to remember, the last time that these two sides played, it was a last-minute thriller, I believe, with just a last-minute kick missed that gave the Australians the win. And we have got there a close game on the card, says Anton. And yeah, I feel like a lot of people have struggled to pick who's going to actually win this game. And going to be a low-scoring game, like 19 points to 15, says Andre. Well, as long as it's entertaining, we are all happy. And the brothers' tank was empty for the box, says Johannes. And hi, Hamish, greetings from South Africa, says Rio, welcome in. Hope you are doing extremely well. Anyone who hasn't already, be sure to put in that prediction. Who you think will be able to go on and win this game. I think Scotland at home probably would still give them the slight advantage, but I'm not going by any more than 7. Hi, Hamish from Durban, looking very smart again. Thanks for showing your respect for the big games, says Brian. I'll be honest, I only got the suit on maybe about 5 minutes before the start of this live stream. I was just going to wear the hoodie, but then I thought, no, I'll get in trouble, so I better put the suit on for these last 2 games. I will mention, though, if I do end up doing Australia versus Ireland next weekend, we won't have the suit on, seeing as I'll be away from home. Going to be on holiday, but I am still probably going to have about 10 live streams that we do throughout that time. This shouldn't be close, though. Let's be real. Australia have only been good for 2 games, says 9HD, but we've got to remember their last 2 games are the ones they've been good for. So if you're basing it off form, the Australians will be right there. Whereas if it was based off, let's say, Australia in the Rugby Championship, if that's what we were judging off and they had lost their last 2 games, then in that regard, I'd say it won't be close. But the fact that Australia have won their last 2 in the North, I would say that makes it a bit closer. Scotland better than England and should beat Australia, says George. And Aussie by 5, says Stephen. 10 lives, says Jared. Australia by 14. What's up? When is the game starting, says LJ. We are only 2 minutes away from the start of this game. Hello, says George. Hello, George. Do you do URC? We do the URC on the channel as well. We're still hoping to do the games next week, some of them, but then there are a couple overlaps with the international rugby side of things as well as the Dubai Sevens. Everything's on in the same window next week. So we're going to be juggling doing that as well as kind of being on holiday at the same time. My voice is starting to cut out already, and we are only early on in this first live stream. We've still got Japan versus England just around the corner, but they are just showing that starting lineup. The late change of Brendan Payanga Amosa into the starting lineup. And Joseph Suali'i. They're already talking about how key of a team man, or how key of a man he will be in this team. So Billy Pollard does come onto the bench. And also Nick Frost will be into the side off the bench. And that is due to the late change of Jeremy Williams, I believe. Very humid, says Robert. And we have got there Joseph Boom. Let's go, boys. All about to be taken out onto the field. Lots of South Africans here. Hamish, when the Springboks play, you always get high numbers watching, says George. That is true. We've managed to build up a pretty impressive South African audience in terms of the amount of you guys who tune in no matter what game has taken place. You've got male vibes going on here, says Cool Story Bro. Are you going to be naked if you've got work tomorrow, bro, says Zion. Luckily, I'll be able to start probably in the afternoon. So I'll probably start at about 12 today. So our last live stream will finish at about 7 a.m. New Zealand time. I'll get to go to sleep for about maybe 4 hours by the time I have some food and whatnot, and then get up and get ready for work. Football is not more popular than rugby in South Africa. BS, rugby is South Africa's number 1 sport. It is incorrect. Football is actually the number 1 sport in terms of numbers in South Africa. Fun fact. Water gives lives. That is true. It's a good thing, says George. And also we have got that, come on Scotland, says Malcolm. Murrayfield, Edinburgh has undersoil heating. Snow's no problem, says Power Bite. I toss and turn for 4 hours, says George, but it's kicked off now, the Wallabies. Oh, it's not gone the 10, and that is not an ideal start, but Duan Whanamerva's decided to regather it anyway, but he knocked it on. That was not a good move from Scotland. They could have just left that and they would have been able to continue on, going back to the halfway line, but instead I think it was actually knocked into Duan Whanamerva. Yeah, it was actually knocked on. Noel Alessio not happy with it, and then the Australians now have the scrum. Football is the bread of sports. We are not that biased. South Africa's like you, mate. Can be even-handed or even-handed, even though you are ABs through and through, says Graham. I wouldn't guarantee that. The amount of times I've been called a Springbok supporter on this channel is almost more times than I've been called an All Black supporter. Fun fact. But I think that's just because we do the same amount of videos on both sides. And then people go, oh, because he knows something about South African rugby, he must be like a supporter. But we just research the teams. Jake Gordon. Now with the inside ball from Noel Alessio to Will Skelton. Jake Gordon goes back across to the left-hand side to Lenekitau. Already a little bit of physicality being shown by Rob Valentini on Matt Fagerson, trying to push his head through the dirt at Murrayfield. Now going back across to the left-hand side, Jake Gordon, Salakai Lotto, Valentini, little kick in behind attempted by Len Ikitau, claimed at the back by Hugh Jones. Too far out from his own line at the moment, about 15 metres. Yeah, splinters on your backside, says Fleshen. And when is England playing? They are going to be playing in about 2.5 hours' time, so not too far from the start. We have got their Mosquitoes Dam problem. Yeah, but you could say the same in New Zealand. It's not the number one sport. That's crazy. Just because kids play it. But okay, New Zealand favourite sport is soccer, says Ponko. I mean, we're just talking like numbers-wise. Like football in South Africa does get the most funding as well. I believe they actually get more funding than the Springboks. If Australia wins today, I'll make next week's match all the more exciting, which can be extra awesome, as the game marks the IFU's 150th anniversary. Yeah, there's a lot of potential for a massive game next week, as the crowd for Fiji versus Ireland, it never really came alive, and I don't know whether or not that was because of the one-sided nature of the score, or whether it was more so just the start-stop nature of that match. Gordon goes back across to the left, Noel Alessio across there to Rob Bellatini. Unlike he chases that guy as a Cinco Fint, I don't know that word, to be honest, for South African money and media access. I know he's gone to South Africa a couple of times, hasn't he? It's the most played sport in New Zealand because parents are scared, but everyone knows their national sport is rugby. Cut it out, says Ponku. I think you just don't like losing arguments, Ponku. I think we've learned that from the last few weeks, haven't we? It's a big kick downfield from the Scottish. And now loose ball. Nicely taken at the back from Tom Wright. He's got that long right boot. Kicks it down the middle of the field. Big areas in the goal for Murrayfield compared to Italy that we saw where the areas were only a few metres long. Scotland has about 50 million supporters in South Africa compared to the 10 million for rugby, says Zender. So yeah, like football does have great numbers in South Africa. And I think that was also because of that World Cup in 2010. I think that really helped boost the nation's support for football as well. The problem with the Boks is they try go through the middle. Every time they go out wide, they can be very dangerous, says George. National sport in Northern Cyprus is folk dancing and football. Scots by 5-9. Australia, I will back quite often, but never for cricket. Too many shenanigans, says Graham there. Yeah, they've been involved in their fair share of controversies over the years in the cricket side of things. They're struggling up against India at the moment. Nice flat ball from Finn Russell, but I don't think Hugh Jones expected it, as he had got in front of him. Because just by kicking a can around, you're playing football, it's super accessible. I'm not saying which sport is better, by the way, says Cool Story Bro. Kia ora, Hamish. Terero Māori. Do I know any Terero Māori? I only have a couple sentences up the sleeve, but really not enough to be able to say it. No, I speak facts. I'm saying I've known that for ages the number of why soccer gets played more. I'm not disputing that, but what I'm saying is there's a reason why the All Blacks is our national team, not the soccer team. Yeah, but you were saying about South Africa. You're saying that South Africa, their national team is also their rugby team, which I know that rugby supporters would say. But, you know, the numbers earlier on, someone said 50 million play football, 50 million support football, 10 million support the rugby side of things. That's a big shot coming in. Now the ball is loose. Harry Potter pops it up to Lukan Salakai Lotto. Also, Budweiser's drunk a lot. Doesn't make it a good beer, says Gareth. And that's going to be the penalty now going the way of Australia. South Africa have never won a Football World Cup. Let's talk about football when they win the World Cup, says Washer. Yeah, although there's quite a few teams that don't have a World Cup victory under their belt for the football side of things. Who's playing next weekend? Just Ireland versus Australia and internationals. And then alongside that, we've got the matches that have taken place for the URC. Harry Potter, exactly right. He's out on the wing. He was born just before the books came out, so his parents were not just a massive fan. But unfortunately for that man, he just was born at a time when they thought it was a fine name to give him. And then the books happened. We have got there Gareth with the beers from Fleshen. No, Irish soccer has always been South Africa's number one game, has a huge supporter base, but rugby is definitely growing and becoming more diverse, says Nicholas. And it is good to see that, like, because that's the thing. People always talk about South Africa being just a rugby nation, but they have got football up their sleeve as well. That's another penalty going the way of the Australians. There's a few too many going against Scotland early on. Yeah, that's the retort. The retort when anyone challenges South Africa on rugby, says Washer. Scotland have never won the Soccer World Cup, but it's by far the biggest game in Scotland. Rugby isn't even close, says Powerbite. And win the World Cup and consistent make FIFA World Cup, then talk like you're a soccer nation. It's a New Zealander in Premier League at the moment. Second highest scorer to Haaland and Woods, says Ponku. I feel like you just come up with the randomest, non-relevant facts, Ponku, until everyone goes, okay, fine, we can't be bothered, he's right. Which is getting close, because we can't be bothered. With 10 metres out from the line now, rolling maul chance for the Australians. Now Skelton is going to be wrestled down. That's a nice bit of work in the breakdown from Darcy Graham, and he wins the penalty for Scotland. Good goal line defence, only a few metres out. Is cricket the biggest game in India? I believe so, yes. And then I think it's, I can't remember the name of it. But there's the second one, which is something Buddy, I think it is. I don't talk about Cricket World Cup. South Africa has been close so far from winning too many times. That's true, though. It's a New Zealander killing it in the Premier League. Yeah, but it had no relevance to your first comment. Like, it's like going, South Africa are good at rugby. By the way, Aidan Markram hits a nice cover drive. You know? Or something just to do with a random, Ebenetzer's got nice toes. Anything like that. It's just a random stat that has nothing to do with what you were talking about. But now it's going to be thrown in over the top for the Scottish. And, wait, it's called as not straight, but they didn't contest. I didn't think you could get it not straight if they didn't contest. And the biggest problem with this argument is it's football, not soccer, says Fleshen. We have got there the relevance of South Africa thinks they're good, but what are they? Keep up? No, I can't argue with an idiot. But 9 minutes into this game, the scrum at the moment, 30 metres out from the line. And Australia will have a very good chance to use their set piece. Joseph Suali'i, a very handy man on the outside. Moustache makes them look like pedophiles, says George. I think it's just the Movember support for the Australians. Again, they're not following their own new line-out laws, says Zion. Yeah, and there's been so many changes recently that I think even the referees are struggling to keep up with what is actually happening. Nice run forward from Noel Alessio. Tackle well by his opposite number, Finn Russell. Now Jake Gordon pops the ball up. And good carry forward for George Bell. Angus Bell, I should say. George Bell, of course, the Crusaders and All Black for this year. Only got a few minutes. Now going off to the left-hand side, Suali'i pops the ball up. Out wide to Harry Potter. Suali'i got the ball again and just flattened. And there's another advantage in favour of the Australians. Now around the side, Brandon Paianga Amosa. We have got their Porn Stars with Mustache. We have got their, where are they in the Premier League? An idiot, you don't know what you're on about at all. You're changing. I feel like I'm so confused by how your brain works, but I guess each to their own. And trust me, you want to call me an idiot to my face, Hamish? I'd make you sack it. Or that's also facts, says Bonku. So your original comment was about South Africa not being a football nation. South Africa, you were shown in the chat how many comments or how many people support football compared to rugby. And then you go, Chris Wood's got the second most goals in the Premier League. Boom. Ponko the Bellion, says Gareth. Does Harry Potter know this is not Quidditch, says George. They have fun at the Moses Stadium here, I've noticed. Says Cool Story, bro. Now it's going to be a chance for Australia to earn the early 3 points. You want to call me an idiot? Let's see if I see you. I'll make you cry, says Ponku. It's just weird. I just don't know how you work. Now 21 metres from the try line. Now lining up this kick for Noah Lalicio. And I usually say it's hard to argue with a wise man, but impossible to argue with an idiot, says Mountain Strand. This kick has now gone over. And South African soccer is an absolute joke, says Barry. And Ponko, you gully, mate, says Cricks and go the Wallabies, says Lawrence. But now that kick has gone over for the Australians. They are now leading 3-0 up against the Scottish. A good early start for them in this contest. And we have got South African cricket, also a joke, says George. And Harry Potter and the slippery kangaroo. It sounds like it's a strange kind of different side of the Harry Potter series, isn't it? Nate could have winded him up a bit more, says Gareth. Now Tom Wright moving forward. Yahoo, let's go. Aussie Outback Steakhouse, says Ruth. Bro, is this the last game for the Wallabies? It actually isn't. They have still got another game that will be taking place next week up against the Irish. I just realised by you saying Nate could have winded him up, I assume he's been timed out. I would assume in that case. Has this game started yet, says Cool Story, bro? It has indeed. 12 minutes into the game, Will Skelton showing some really good power. Knocking Ben White backwards. Harry Potter and this philosophy rugby ball. And also, we have got South Africa Wine Arts pretending to understand rugby on Facebook. Always makes me laugh. Says Power Bite. Not quite the cleanest line out there, but it's bounced onto the side of Lukan Salakaia-Lolo up until the ref gives another penalty. And Gareth Ferguson was gonna. Says Blues, Nate. Gonna be the contact in the air. The possibilities are endless. Custard pie with frozen fruit on top. South Africa needs to win. Hello, Hamish, says Blues. Welcome in, mate. If you are keeping well. Finn Russell now, they've decided to opt for the corner here, Scotland, rather than going for the 3 points. That is a bold call early, but it is something that they've done time and time again. There's a rugby watch-along, Ponko, in case you haven't noticed. There's going to be a football stream for you to go talk about rugby on. Says Fleshin. I was just confused at how it kept going from the topic we were talking about to something that was not completely related. Like, I was just confused. But now that's going to be another penalty, this time going to Scotland. This is an easy 3. Out in front of the post. And yeah, bro, I have a good call. Let's get it. Says SS there, Gregor Townsend, and the weird non-selection of Johnny Matthews and George Horn, says Power Bite. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, Scotland, there's been some interesting choices in terms of these selections. Johnny Matthews not getting starting minutes, I think it's surprised a lot of people based off his current form. Rooting for Scotland for me, mum. And Hamilton Bros, says Andrew Nell. Going to be nicely taken again. Looking for the rolling maul. Scotland doing very nicely, getting this one moving forward. Now back across, nice chip in behind from Finn Russell. Might have just got a bit too much on it, although massive in-goal areas, which almost still meant that that ball fell nicely. And Hamish question, has South African or has New Zealand rugby and cricket historically been better than South Africa? Honest question, not a troll question. I think, see, it's a tricky one because it depends on what era. I would say that New Zealand cricket as a whole, but neither side have been great when it comes to tournaments and whatnot. But I'd say New Zealand cricket probably has had a longer shelf life, if that makes sense, in South Africa. But then New Zealand and South Africa for rugby, that one can be debated for hours in terms of depending on what people look for. Currently, you'd say that South Africa, of course, at the top. But then there's always that debate of whether this team at the moment is better than the 2011 to 2015 All Blacks, which Australia decided to take that one quickly, going with the goal line dropout. It only travelled about 2 centimetres, but that is all it has to do. It's pretty much just a glorified tap. New Zealand will never be a top team until about 20 years ago. Or was never a top team until about 20 years ago, says Zenda. Or will they be commentary for England versus Japan? Looking forward to seeing Eddie take on the English. We are going to be doing the commentary for that one. Now, it's going to be kicked high from Lulisio. Slapped back onto the side of Salakai Lotto. The funniest thing is that Peter Horn was also an overrated show pony, whereas the younger brother George Horn is the better player, but Peter is coach now, so George never gets a start, says Power Bite. Yeah, so that also makes it tricky when there's the behind the scenes. Oh, nice little chip in behind from Noel Alicio. This game's been played at a pace at the moment. Anytime I try and finish a sentence, something else happens. Normally a kick, and that one's been kicked downfield from Finn Russell. Noel Alicio inside of his in-goal area goes right across to Andrew Callaway. The inaugural test series between the New Zealand and South African national cricket teams took place in New Zealand in February and March 1932. Well, there we go. Thanks for the game coverage, man, says Nthuko. No worries at all. What is the weather conditions like at Murrayfield? It's actually very nice by the looks of it. A little bit of sun might still be out in the background. That looked like a Scottish injury just in back play, but I think he's going to be all right. Moaning Myrtle was 38 and something in the bathroom. This is a cool story, bro. But now, the one fun to murder. 30 metres out from the line. What happened to Scotland score? Says Soraya. As in, why are they on 0? Or, that's going to be another knock on, this time from Blair Kinghorn. It's just a few too many errors early on at the moment here from Scotland, and they are only maybe 1 or 2 passes away from actually getting the next thing going. I'm watching from Pretoria in South Africa, says Nthuko. And also Vamos, Australia, says Ruben. Finn Russell, yeah, baby, just sublime moves, says Ruth. Just saying there about making the tackle before the era. One moment, we all go like that. We will go like that as well. I watched from Lanesburg, says Devos. Hopefully I've said that correctly. There we go. Position at the moment, 74% at the moment for Australia. Watching from Durban, love your commentary, says Barry. And book title, Peter Horn and the younger brother, he jealously bullies, but never picks, says Power Bite. And watching from Johannesburg, says Sakili. And there too. And we've got, ever since South Africa started putting in, they slipped down. It's slowly coming right, says Barry. And you got to watch a live match in South Africa. Enjoy the after-Bry experience. Yeah, see, one day I would like to head to South Africa. It's still a wee way away because just to get over there on a plane is a fair amount of money. Gosh, now I want to watch the Harry Potter series from start to finish, says George. You'll need quite a few hours. They actually do that sometimes in movie theaters, don't they? They do a streaming, how they just do it pretty much all the matches, or sorry, not matches, the movies back to back to back. 17 minutes in at the moment. Jake Gordon about to feed the scrum. But now, Australia trying to control it. Cricket-wise, South Africa has one more test in 1 day. New Zealand 1 more World Cup games against South Africa, says Jake. Now that's going to be booted in behind. And, yep, that's going to be knocked on by the Australians and a Scottish penalty. This is my new go-to after the Vitbox string failed on me. Says Dave, bit of push and shove too for Tom Wright. He's getting ripped around a bit by Duan van der Merwe. Hamish is now a pin-up here in South Africa. You'll come to South Africa soon. I'm sure Ronald van der Merwe is going to pay for you, says Andre. Yeah, so that was Tom Wright going over to push Ben White around. If you do come to South Africa, Kings Park has the best vibe. And also notice that by contrast, when Andy Farrell was England coach, he always picked his son Owen. Peter and Townsend didn't or really don't like George Horn. And go Aussie, 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 oi, 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 Southern Hemisphere all the way. And he chases loves coming to South Africa. Says George. He's a bit older than myself though, so he's probably had more time to earn the funds to be able to do so. Oh. Hang on, what's going on now? We're actually going right back to 40 metres out where the penalty is. Yes, Hamish, that would be great to visit South Africa. Pity about the distance and the cost. I think planes fly direct from Johannesburg to Perth. So you can fly to Perth, then onwards to South Africa. Says Brian. Sounds like they are now going to be taking on the shot here, Scotland. And great in the Southern Hemisphere, finish off with a win here. We should all donate you lots of money, Hamish, says George. Okay, I can hear it now that the referee's pretty much said to Scotland, we know that Tom Wright started it, but you have to try and control your emotions. 33 metres out for the first kick of the match for Finn Russell. It's been 19 minutes of pretty back and forth rugby between these two sides. It's time for pizza. Harry Potter pizza toppings invisible. I from Colombia go Scotland, although I would not shed a tear. The Wallabies pull it off, says Neil. I'm poor, but will help you spend it, says George. Oh, it's hit the post and bounced back out. And the mark is called by Harry Wilson. Very smart from the captain. You are able to mark as long as the ball hasn't touched the ground, and he will boot the ball downfield and into touch. That is a fantastic bit of work from the Aussie skipper. I remember the burning hot tarmac at the airport after coming back to South Africa after years of living in England. Did you play cricket yesterday? I did indeed, yes. Didn't go that well, for me anyway. Check out what Tim from Egg Chasers had say about his visit to South Africa. He really loved. Says Nicholas. I remember the burning. Oh no, I read that one, didn't I? A high from Colombia, goes Scotland. Though I would not shed a tear if the Wallabies pull it off. But Egg Chaser lies all the time about South African rugby in order to guarantee more away trips to game lodges. Don't trust that guy, says Powerbite. Now, counter ruck, no, not legally from the Australians. It's going to be another penalty to Scotland. Their discipline's starting to let them down here, the Wallabies. It's a lot of penalties in a row that they are conceding. I want the Scottish to win from South Africa, says Mountain Strand. Qantas flies directly from Sydney to Johannesburg, but remember Hamish must fly from Christchurch and not Wellington or Auckland, more difficult. And really? Nah, dude, says George. I want the Scottish to win. And come on, Scotland, beat these wannabes, says WLK. It's a good kick downfield from Scotland. But that's some great work. Quick hands from Scotland. And then I think it was just Andrew Callaway losing his footing. Hamish Test Cricket, South Africa 26, New Zealand 7. 16 draws. I know, we're near us, Well, that's actually, to be fair, with those stats, I'd have to agree with you. See, my knowledge probably only goes back 20 years, but like someone said, they've been playing since 1932. So back in the day, what a run from Tui Polotu straight through the middle of the Aussie defence. And that is going to make the score now in favour of the Scottish. Their first try of the game. And that made it look easy. Going straight through. What's the difference between cricket balls made in Australia and India and Pakistan? What are the best quality? It just depends on the maker a little bit. Like the kookaburras are the Australian ones. Grey Nichols, I think, they made in... No, the Duke ball's made in England. I'm not sure where Grey Nichols balls are made. That is a great run from Sione Tuipolotu. And just straight through Callaway and Ikitau. And just tuned in, big party outside, having a spit bry here. At the barn in Wellington, very low score, come on Scotland. Try Scotland, says Jared. And Aussies for the big push later. Well, that's the thing. We've seen Aussies or the Australians be down before. And then they manage to normally get back into it a little bit. Aussie scores against Australia, says Fleshin. And we have got there Joe Schmidt will turn the Wallabies around. South African watching and living in France, says Stephen Anderson. Been pretty cold in France recently, hasn't it? Stephen, oh, that ball's just bounced straight up into the hands of Harry Wilson. Well, they took off. See you at 50 minutes, big call. Their best player next game, well. See you, risky call from Rassie next game, well. See you off at 55 minutes, OMG. Says Power Bite. Great try, says Jimbo. Now nice pass on the outside. It's going to be a drop ball, but they will go back for another penalty, this time going the way of the Australians. This one about 22 metres out from the line. So a 3 is there if they want it for the Australians, but I think they might be better off kicking for the corner here. South Africa is now part of the North. The Bulls, the Stormers, the Sharks, and the Lions play in the North. These losers in the Pacific ain't our friends anymore, says WLK. And opened up the curtains there. Scott's through the gap, says Ruth. Now, distance to the try line, 7 metres out for the Australians. Brendan Poyanga Amosa. Nicely taken by Wilson. Now looking for that rolling maul, and it's actually popped out on the side of Grant Gilchrist. I have no idea how that ball has ended up in his hands. What's the main rugby ground called in Christchurch? I'm not sure what its name is now, but it used to be Orange Theory Stadium, but I think it's had another name change. So I'm not too sure what it is now. But give me a few minutes, says Ruth. Kick downfield by Scotland, managing to hang on. Not concede there. And yeah, Gilchrist just got the ball straight into his hands. I think Carlo Tizzano passed it off to him. Murrayfield has the deepest in-goal areas in rugby. Predict Joe Schmidt try a few in-goal chips and grubbers. New Zealand had a great ODI side when Crow, Rutherford, Latham were playing. Says Devos. I think this is going to be interesting, says Stretch Fletcher. Now the short hot pass up to Lene Cattell. 30 metres out from the line again. Here for the Wallabies, Jake Gordon goes across to the left-hand side, skip pass, goes out to Harry Potter, puts the grubber in behind, and trying to shepherd that one out was Finn Russell. It's only just gone into touch. Now 5 metres out from the line, Scotland. A little bit of talk there between Russell and Tom Wright. Tom Wright, he's a fiery individual and normally annoys a lot of opposition. Can you see the day when a Tier 2 or a Tier 3 side win the World Cup? Maybe one day. It's a tricky one at the moment. Like, the last World Cup, I would argue, was the most competitive we've had in a long time in terms of the amount of top sides that had half a chance of winning it. But whether or not that continues to be the case, or whether certain sides will drop off and then other sides will come up, is still a little bit of a wait-and-see situation. That ball's going to be booted into touch. Sorry, George, private do. I'm keeping away from it, says Bruce. Depends on the situation at that time. Sometimes it's a good call, sometimes not. It depends, says George. And we have got there, do you have an opinion about everything? A bit of a know-it-all, says Nil. Sounds like Ponku, doesn't it? But that's going to be now the penalty going the way of the Scottish. I think you only timed out Ponku, though, didn't you? He should be back here, unless he's just left. Now Finn Russell kicking it towards the touchline, and Jade Stadium, formerly Lancaster Park. I think the park collapsed 2019 and had to be rebuilt, says Andre. And thanks, Cal Mac. Appreciate your love. Same to you, says Ruth. Carlo Tizzano just entering through the side of the breakdown. You can hear a Scotland chant going around the ground. Ewan Ashman goes across to Jamie Ritchie. Oh, big shot coming in on Tui Pilotu. Hi, guys. Better late than never, says Never. Welcome in, mate. Hope you're doing extremely well. It's a good maul, and that one's stuck in there, which means Australia have defended. Yet again, another Scottish attack. Hutchins was a crack kid, unfortunately, says Zenda. They were so talented and good looking, says Ruth. Ritchie reminding young ones how it's done, says Jimbo. How old is Jamie Ritchie? I swear he doesn't look like he's that old either, but I guess he might be a little bit older than I think. Honestly, I would have thought he was like mid-20s, but he's probably like 30-something, is he? Aruf here every time. She's a devoted subscriber. She certainly is. Jamie Ritchie. He's 28. Okay, so he is kind of young. Which is, hey, mate, for your age, you have great comm skills. Keep it up, dude. Cheers, Graham. Thank you very much. Don't reply on negative comments. It's a waste of time from a Springbok supporter. Albertus, you're the best commentator. Says Albertus, thank you very much. Oh, a little kick behind. Attempted there, but Suoliti not able to line it up. Does make the tackle, though. He's holding him up by his head. I don't know whether or not that's allowed. And we have got there. I know all in all, the Southern Hemisphere rugby sides have ruled supreme against the Northern Hemisphere. Back on track to becoming number 1, 2, and 3 again. Won't be long now, says Douglas. Now Scotland, ball on the halfway line in their possession. Tuipulotu, the try scorer so far for the Scottish, the only try scorer at this point in the game. We're already 28 and a half minutes in. Now a big shot coming into Pierre Scorman. Finn Russell puts it in behind to Tuipulotu, now off to Hugh Jones. I'm going to step through, gets around the attempt of Angus Bell, who's your favourite Super Rugby side. I do quite like what the Hurricanes have been building lately. They've got a lot of great young players. Oh, that's a big shot on the spine. You know, they've got Peter Lakai, they've got Ruben Love. Got a couple decent young locks as well. Safwa Moore. I think they've got a bright future at the moment, the Canes, and hopefully we see a few more of them making the ABs next year as well. I am Scottish. I played in South Africa, Australia. I'm talking about Scottish rugby. South Africa and Egg Chase is being dishonest in his analytics, so it's all South Africa and Scotland rugby knowledge. So says power bite. That's going to be a nice run out wide ball. Graham puts it on the inside. Oh, I don't think Suoliti wrapped his arms there, and I think he's just broken his wrist. And the crowd are not happy about it, but that did not look good for Suoliti. I think he's just injured himself, and now Scotland are still on hot attack. And fact, not fiction. I only write fiction ebooks. See Douglas. Now around the side, Pierre Scorman. Still in possession here. Rory Dash can't get his offload away. I think Suoliti is still down on the far side of the field. Hasn't returned. So for now, Scotland will try and avoid that wing. Who do you think will win the URC? I think there's a few decent sides this year. I think Glasgow, Leinster, or maybe, that's going to be the penalty to the Australians. I thought Hamish is from Christchurch, but maybe he is from Dunedin, Queenstown, or Invercargill. I remember the Springboks game in 1981 in Invercargill, which never started. Thank you very much, Jason, for becoming a channel member. You now have access to those emojis on the channel as well. Okay, Suoliti saying, I'll see you next time, referring to the next time that he tries to make a tackle on him, he's going to whack him, isn't the best look. Like they've said, he needs to calm his nerves, or else he'll have that, he put in the big hit there on Sione Tuipulotu, and he did manage to wrap his arms by the looks of it, so that is ideal. Yeah, a slight attempt to wrap on Sione Tuipulotu. The Scottish is physically dominating the East Cons. It's like angry prison guards laying down the law, says WRLK. And Suoliti needs to wrap. This isn't league. And he's actually gone off now for an HIA. And he's not too happy about it, I don't think. But yeah, he was talking to one of the Scottish players saying, I'll get you next time. He's hurt his wrist in the process. And Bulls, says George. And Stormers says Gladwin. Yeah, I got cut off halfway through, but I was going to say that the Bulls the Sharks have just a stacked side, don't they? In terms of, their players that they've got. But it's whether or not they can put it together. A little bit similar to the Stormers. They've got some great backs, but a lot of them injured or not being played in the starting lineup at the moment. I think having Sasha back later on in the season could be massive for them. Looks like now kicking towards the touchline is Noah Lalicio with 31 minutes into this game and just the one try has been scored. And we have got there, come on the Aussies, his music is life. And think he's playing league, says Sally. Now Brandon Paianga Amosa. Ready to throw this ball in. It's over the top. Ewan Ashman there to claim it for Scotland. Rory Darsh goes across to Russell. Now skip pass out to Hugh Jones. Cuts back inwards. The Australian defence now under a lot of pressure. Valentini almost got the turnover. Couldn't quite. Solver's on the bottom of the log. No hope for them at the moment, says Ender. Yeah, unless something drastic changes, they will be possibly a little bit lower than a couple of those other sides. Also, the dark horse of the comp, I think, is the Lions at the moment, because no one's really looking out for them, but they've got some pretty big wins under their belt already this year. And Russell inside ball, but it will also come down to those South African derbies, because if Lions lose those like they did last year, I think they had a record of losing about 10 games in a row up against South African sides. If they can't get those wins, then that'll really hurt their chances of qualifying high. Darcy Graham wrestled down by Callaway, gets back up to his feet as he wasn't held. 10 metres out from the line here. Ben White goes across to Rory Darge again. Maybe North is himself, but I have to support Scotland here, says Neville. Still the penalty advantage. White goes across to Russell, slinging it across to Blair Kinghorn, almost through. Been right on the cusp at the moment for Scotland to be able to get it over the try line. Russell holding the ball too long, needs to release his ball, his backs quicker, says Jimbo. And Australia were lucky against England, says Leslie. As in, to win the game or just in general? Because, to be fair to them, right, if England are going to concede 42 points, and up till that stage when Australia won, if they're going to concede 35 points, yes, there's a bit of luck involved, but it's still, at times you've done things wrong for England if you're conceding 35 points in a game, not including that last-minute try. And this ref giving Scotland everything. Says Xavier, and afternoon Hamish, hope all is well. Says Kerno Wick, and Scots by 15, take it to the bank. Says George, and Southern teams for the win, South African, so I have to support Australia. Says Gladvin. And come on the Celts, says Kieran there. And the ref is paid, says music is life. Oh, loose ball, Ewan Ashman somehow regathers it. I don't know what happened there, but they've actually gone back for a knock on. They'll survive yet again and join the cricket. For a bit bleary-eyed, says Eric J. Yeah, it's good to have Test match cricket back in the full swing of things. We've got Australia, India happening at the moment. New Zealand, England going to be starting in only a few days' time. And Scotland's really pushing hard now. Shows their good pedigree, says Ruth. And join the cricket. Deep breaths being taken, though, by both of these teams. It's been played at a high tempo. My grand ain't looking good. Depends on who you're backing. Music is life. Hello, Ruth, says Jimbo. And Scott's really pushing hard now. Shows their good pedigree. Aussie's coming back last 30 minutes. Hello, you and Marnus Bofe, says Fluffy. But in terms of getting a duck. Or did I say I got a duck over the weekend? I don't think I did, but I did, unfortunately. Took the shine off the ball, as they say. And just showing what's going on. Currently, it's been very close throughout the first 34 minutes. We've just got a scrum that's about to take place. They're just checking it, but I'm not sure what they're checking for. Okay, it was just replays and whatnot. Still getting a couple players patched up. Looks like Ben White. It's a bit of an injury. World Cup must stay in the south. And good day, Hamish. Looking good as usual on the job, says Daniel. Thank you very much, mate. All of you, Australia and New Zealand guys, whinge about the ref every time, says Kieran. And terrible line out, says Jimbo. And Australia 7-5. Okay, well, they're not out of the game yet. They're just right out from their own goal area. And A up Fluff. Support Australia from South Africa. Being a box supporter, who do you like to win this game? Says Leslie. Being a box supporter, I assume... Wait, is that you saying you're a box supporter or that I'm a box supporter? Who do you like to win this game? I think that Scotland at home is the thing that I said would give them the slight advantage. But honestly, I don't see this game being split by more than 7 between these two teams. So it's going to be so important, the discipline later on. Australia already conceding quite a few penalties at this stage. Now 5 minutes remaining in this first half. A up, fella, says Fluffy. Ball about to be fed in. You're the box supporter. Says Leslie, and what Scotland need to improve on second half? What does Aussie need to improve second half? Well, Scotland, I think it's just finding that last pass, getting that ball out their back line a little bit crisper. And then for the Australians, it's just to stop giving away those penalties that are allowing Scotland to push their way down the field more. It's a big scrum from the Wallabies. They managed to get the exit, but about 25 metres out from the line is where we will now see the line-out opportunity for Scotland. And come on, the Aussies, come on. Says Ben Johns. It's still close here. I like a Kieran, good humour. Says Ruth, and South Africa not be number one for years. Oh, sorry, will be number one for years. Infringement of copyright, says Eric J. And great commentary, Hamish. Great idea bringing your mother on yesterday. Speaks loads of sense. Thanks, Neil. Now going back across, Ben White goes to Sione Tuipolotu. And come on, the Scots. Making a chicken potier. I love you, Hamish. Says Dion. Nice inside ball coming from Kinghorn. Goes to Graham. Brandon Poyanga Mosa, though, over the... No, he lost the ball right at the last moment. And my second favourite rugby team is South Africa, eh? And rugby has gone woke. In what way are you talking? Now White goes back across to Sione Tuipolotu. Finn Russell to Hugh Jones. Just stays inside of the field of play. 22 metres out now for Scotland. Bit of a rough pass, having to get down on his knees for that one, Jamie Ritchie. Now Russell goes across to Matt Fagerson. Needed to pass, but he's knocked it on in the process of the tackle. In this game, I need the Scotty Australia needs to keep in place. Says Daniel, Australia nicknamed the Comeback Kids. You will see why later, says Douglas. And New Zealand should have taken Joe Schmidt. What do you think, says Kieran? I mean, Joe Schmidt, though, at the time, to be fair, did say that he didn't want the head coach role. So, I don't think they would have been able to convince him. I'm not sure what made him change his mind when Australia threw money at him rather than New Zealand. But, it's working out for them at the moment. 5 handling errors from Scotland compared to the 0 from the Australians. That's a big talking point throughout the early stages here. Bring back old rules, make rugby great again. Says music is life. And H is fabulous. Never get better than him. Says Ruth. And we have got there pronounced Poiki. Okay. I butchered the pronunciation, didn't I? Now, big scrum, but Australia will get themselves the penalty yet again. And that's got Robinson, a sound block. Seems great. I'd have a beer with him, keep hold of him. Says Neil from England. I know this was going to be a low-scoring game. I said 19-15. Irrespective of who wins, says Andre. Yeah, these two sides defensively are normally pretty solid. Scotland, every once in a while they concede a few tries, but currently Australia haven't really thrown enough at them in the dangerous part of the field. So, we haven't really seen that defence properly tested. I would say scrums at the moment, the advantage does seem to be there for the Australians. Lineouts are a bit 50-50 on both sides. Scotland not having the best throws, and then Brandon Poyanga Mosa at times also gets a wonky. I could bet on a draw. I got dreaded odds, of course. Or got great odds, of course, sorry. How far are Aussies from the Scots line? Well, currently Scotland have got the ball on the halfway line and they are on attack after the line out of the Aussies was not successful. Now rolling forward here. About 22 metres out for the line, and that's been called as a rolling maul, which now means that Australia have got a scrum again on their 22-metre line. These two sides at the moment are just equaling each other extremely well, but nicely stolen at line-out time from Grant Gilchrist. And Scotland had that counter-attacking chance. Couldn't quite make the most of it. I have no idea what bets to make, says Jonathan. Well, the safest ones are the ones that you don't make, because these games are very unpredictable. This one, in terms of the best odds for both teams, was probably the way to go. But in terms of compared to the other sides or the other teams, it's so unpredictable. It seems many errors for both teams at 12,000 kilometres, I reckon. Says Fluffy. This game feels like a cricket test match, not much happening. Says George. And, looks like we've got a little bit of a push and a shove again about to take place. Seems to be Ben White right in the middle of it. Daryl, just DNA, not meat. And how you doing, lads? How many games left? Just the one, which is going to be taking place between England and Japan. Brilliant commentary, as usual. Should be full-time job, mate. Says Kieran. Zoele's in the stands. He's not going to be returning for this game. Must have failed the HIA. It might also be that wrist side of things that might keep him from returning. Australia really destroyed my bets last week against Wales. Last 10 minutes of the game really messed up everything. Says Jonathan. Am I having to Harry Potter and the magical manoeuvres? We've hardly seen Harry Potter in this game. Got that bloody invisibility cloak on. Has been put in by Gordon, who will kick it into touch. Australia will accept that they are down by 4 at half-time, but a very low-scoring one between these two teams. At the moment, the Scottish, they have got the advantage, though. The one try from Sione Tuipulotu, who definitely has a wrist injury, says Jimbo. I wish you need to come to Cape Town, at best meet all over the world. We need you here. You are a Valley Springbok, says Dion. Hopefully one day. I feel like the earliest I could get there would be probably 2026 if I'm lucky. Rob Valentini's Wikipedia page profile pic is hilarious. Let's go Harry Potter, says Albert. Nice one, says Eric J. Any new Wallabies alongside Suoli? Harry Potter in the starting lineup for this game, getting the chance out on the wing. But Suoli no longer on the field. Wrist injury. Possibly failed the HIA. We never really heard what the result was of that one. And Scots love a bit of argy-bargy, says Ben Johns in the chat as well. But currently Scotland, they are favourites going into the second half. Australia, I believe they are... One moment, we'll go like this and we'll go like that. Australia, it's not going to tell us where they're sitting at the moment. Cold, says Albert. What's the weather like at Murrayfield, please? It actually looks like a nice afternoon. Early evening game. What caused his wrist incident? He made a tackle on Sione Tuipulotu, but he kind of how do I describe this, which doesn't sound like it's illegal, but he kind of dropped the shoulder a little bit and then didn't really wrap completely, so he only had his wrist kind of dangling there, so then his wrist got crunched like that as he was kind of half by trying to put in the big hit. I won a 35.56 multi-bet, first online bet ever. A decent return for 30, says Fluffy. It's fun to move a playing, says Daniel. He's been out on the wing, but also haven't really seen a huge amount of him throughout that first 40 minutes. He parted. His parents should have named him Voldemort instead of Harry. Well, the thing is, he was born about 9 months before the Harry Potter books came out. So he's just the unfortunate bloke that's ended up with the name before it was actually like J.K. Rowling. Who knows? Maybe she saw his name and went, yeah, that'll do. First time tuning in, good work. Your stuff, says Stephen. Thank you very much, mate. We got plenty more coming up in the near future. England versus Japan taking place very soon. And then also we've got next week the URC as well as a bit of international rugby as well as the sevens that will be taking place as well. So plenty still to come. And then our future, lovely reply there, Hamish, says Ruth. But yeah, overall the weather, I don't think it's not too bad. All right, we'll go like this. We'll go like that as well. And you can change your name, mate, says Legion. He could, but does he have to? Is it going to be something that actually helps him in the future? It could be. And there you go, the Scott, says Hilton. And also Kangaroos need Clive. I don't know who Clive Rathbone is. I possibly should. And also cheers, Hamish, says Kerno Wick. Yeah, overall just not a huge amount to talk about in terms of this game. Is there because we know South Africa, or sorry, not South Africa, we know Scotland at the moment, their biggest error is their handling. And Australia at the moment, their biggest error is their discipline. So he's the original Harry Potter. He was Harry Potter before Harry Potter was a thing. With a sore wrist like that, and he'll have to sleep with his hands on top of the blankets. So here's Bruce. I have a mate whose parents are named him after his uncle, Michael Jackson. They didn't know anything about pop music when they named him. No ladies' day hitting on Hamish, says travelling. Yeah, but that's the normal reality. I don't know what was happening yesterday. Don't know what was in the air, but yeah, certainly different to normal. Wallabies impressed me on this tour, says Albert. Yeah, the fact that they're already 2 wins from 2, with a chance here of getting into this contest and maybe making it 3 is pretty impressive. And we have got there Harry Potter. This is funny. Harry Potter needs some magical donuts with glitter sprinkle. And we have got there, are France going to play South Africa? Sadly not. It's one of those ones that it would have been great to see, but yeah, it's unfortunate. There we go. Yeah, so the odds for this one, once they have finally loaded, it took a little while for them to kick in, but Scotland considered as the heavy favourites going into the second half of this contest. Hamish are being used for breeding, says Jacosaurus. And competitive second half, Aussies winning narrowly, 20 points to 15. If not, Scotland win 21 points to 20. No one going to mention the cricket, says Stephen. We have already earlier on, and we got slightly told off for it. But yeah, at the moment, India doing extremely well. The cricket side of things up against the Aussies. And Australia losing those 3 wickets right at the end of day 3 certainly did not help them. I was at school with Michael Jackson. He has a ginger afro then, says Eric J. Some folks complain our rugby is too much stop and start. You should have seen it 30, 40 years ago. It's bloody awful. They spent 15 minutes with the scrum, says Neil. And I Sharks a good team, says Eddie. And of course, they will be in action next week for the URC. I'm going to work out what time that game is while we're at it. So for the URC next week, they're going to be playing Munster. That is at 8:35 a.m. Now, Sharks versus Stormers, that derby takes place at the same time as Australia versus Ireland, which is really unfortunate in terms of the timing. And we have got there, how good was it beating the Indians? Says Jacosaurus. I mean, New Zealand, to not just pull off 1 win for the first time in India in like 30 years, and not just getting 2, but then to clean sweep a series is absolutely insane. And we're seeing now how good this Indian side can be when they're up against the Aussies and they are making it look a little bit easier. Of course, the first innings didn't quite go how they thought it would, but after that, pulling it back massive. We have got their future is orange, as in the White House, says Eric. Yeah, next week we got Stormers versus Sharks taking place at 4 a.m. on the 1st of December, so that is actually the 30th of November. For you guys in South Africa. Then also Connacht versus the Bulls and Munster versus the Lions. The 2 games taking place after that one. But I don't think we'll get to cover those ones on the channel. But we hopefully will be able to cover Sharks versus Stormers. And then we got the Champions Cup the week after. What would be a chance for competitive second half. I give 50-50 Aussies win or lose somehow. What do you make of the new obstruction rules? It's taken a little while for the players to understand them. We're seeing a lot of penalties that are going against sides, but hopefully everyone does work it out. Eventually, cook me some eggs, Hamish. Says Sino, depends on how you like your eggs. I've got a bit of a unique way of making an omelette. But, yeah, depends on how you like them. How convenient the French get a clean sweep. Should have beat them, says Jacosaurus. Yeah, very close for New Zealand. Argentina having some decent moments, but just falling behind a bit too often in that game. They are just showing all of the different scores that we're seeing. Defenders beaten 11 for Scotland. Only a couple for the Australians. My mate went to the DRS. And nurse said to everyone, guess who's got an appointment today? Michael Jackson. The patient said, the Michael Jacksons, don't know. Have a look at his charts. Says Power Bite. And the crocodile is catching a lot of guys out. That is true. And DuPont can sweep me off my feet anytime, anywhere. And Leicester versus Ulster Friday, Ireland Saturday, 16-hour turnaround. says Jimbo. Wait, all right. Leinster versus Ulster Friday, Ireland Saturday. Yeah, although I don't think Leinster will have all their... They wouldn't be playing in that game, would they? So you're do handsome, says Lie. I think that might be so. So thank you very much. Eggs, slow cooked and butter, only way, says Kieran. May need a ladder, says Jackosaurus. That bridge over the Tamar was... I have no idea what that is. I'll be honest with you. And Schmidt building the Wallabies well. Looking forward to seeing what happens in Dublin. Farrell will have something or with something to prove against his old boss. Should be a tense and close game. Ireland not up to speed yet. You need to be humble, lad, says Lie. But you... Wait, I'm so confused. So you said you're so... Or unless you did mean you're do handsome. I don't know what do handsome means, though. So you said you're do handsome, and then you need to be humble straight afterwards. I would like to think that I am relatively humble, mainly because I don't go out and about. Well, I just stay in my house, really. It's a pretty humble place. Roygaard has good height, says Jackosaurus. That's true. He's got a little bit of size about him for a halfback compared to someone like a Cortez Ratama. He got a unique way of making me an omelette. Quote from Hamish, Styling Kiwi lads. It was just super smooth, says Ruth there. Yeah, second half not too far away in this contest. And we have good there, but for a 14-mile stretch of landlocked countryside. Okay, once again, I have no idea what that is. I get your... Oh, no, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about speed. But I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about speed. Who's, like, as in, like, I show speed? Is it, like, the YouTuber? He's currently in New Zealand, fun fact. So you are talking to Speed, who is not in the chat. Confused much? Says Kieran, is that true? There's a chance the Super Rugby team will play potentially against the British and Irish Lions. Hopefully we do get to see it. Actually, no, we will get to see it. Like the Reds or the Brumbies or someone will end up taking them on. Biggest improvement I've seen for the Wallabies is their forwards are bigger guys manning up physically getting better ball to the backs, says Albert. Yeah, second half not too far away from us. Back underway. I was not expecting this score, says Lochin. And hi, Olin Hamish, says Robert. In the chat, welcome in, Robert. You are doing well. In fact, now that I think about it, there's another game of rugby taking place at the moment. I heard Moana Pacifica has a chance, says Mark there. I guess it could happen. Fiji and Drua, maybe. It's interesting that it would be Moana Pacifica. Anybody know what Flyer's talking about? Many comments are written in riddles. Poor Hamish trying to solve them. Sometimes it is like that, though. Sometimes, like, the chat can utterly confuse you. Right, we'll go here and we'll see what the score is in Tonga's game up against the Georgians. See how they're currently sitting. Hamish, as his tradition, show us the pants. Says lock in there. I mean, the pants, they're pretty normal today. They're just the stock standard. Wait, Tonga versus Georgia. It says that it hasn't kicked off yet, but I think the game started a while ago. So we'll refresh and we'll see what we can find. It's currently 33 minutes in and still 0-0, I think, is what it's... Yeah, 33 minutes into the game, still 0-0 between those two sides, which honestly means that Tonga have a really good shot. Relax, I don't need peace, I want problems, says Lie. And hey, Kiwi lads, man, how you doing? Doing very well, Simon. I was talking about eggs and Stellan, and then I lost my crack pipe, says Power Bite. Is Tonga a country? If you spell it like that, no, but if you spell it with an O, yes. I actually like it here. There's probably more Sace where you live than here. Tamor is a demarcation river. Push back. I am so uncultured or unschooled when it comes to some of these situations. Can't you also hand out red cards, etc., like Inside Rugby does? Get pricks on your comments, or you all pay for Wi-Fi. Says Albertus. We did have one stage on the channel where I actually had like a physical red card and a yellow card, but then I lost them. I don't know where they went. Good to hear, man, says Simon. And there, what's the population of Fiji? Honestly, not too sure, but I will Google it for you, since Google is a thing. Population 936,375 in 2023. I would say that there's been a few babies born since then, though, so probably a couple more than that. Here we go, says Stefan, and g'day pumpkins and pumpkins, says Pluma, welcome in. Now, second half just about to get underway for this matchup. So Finn Russell just having a bit of a chat there with one of the referees. Who are your other three mates? Says Graham, I assume you're talking about the other Kiwi lads. As in like their names or as in just who they are? Just tuned in, is Suili out for good? He's out of this game anyway with a wrist injury by the looks of it. Argentina's problem is ill discipline. We have got there German Smith, great coach. Short time making Aussie great again. And around the million, wow, says Kieran. And I, Hamish, hope you are well, just joined. Is this game any good? It's been all right so far. Like, yes, some people would say, oh, it's a low-scoring game, so not much excitement, but some really good defensive work from both of these sides. And now we just have to wait to see whether or not the floodgates open in the second 40 minutes. Now, ready to kick this one off for the Scottish Blair Kinghorn. Australia will win watch, says Martin. Going to be kicked high, slapped back for Scotland. Tonga playing today. They are indeed up against the Georgians. They're 33 minutes in and still 0-0 by the looks of it in the score. One flew over the cuckoo's nest. I want to go fishing, says Calmac. For all the Polynesian islands got together to make a team, they'd be unbeatable. Says Kieran, a good game so far, says Albert, and that is going to be an early penalty going the way of Scotland. A Kali Tahi, baby, says Lie there. And well, the score is low. And come on, Aussies, get up and do stuff. These Scottish men wearing dresses, says Pluma. Currently, they are ahead by 4 here, Scotland. What ways are there to increase stress in my life, Hamish? Start a YouTube channel. I'd say that will take you up to an all-new high. And Tonga plus 23. Now you and Ashman. Get ready to throw this one in. And nicely taken. Wasn't straight, but did Australia contest? Because if Australia didn't throw someone up, that means that it can be not straight. Did someone... Oh, I'm going to have to see that one again. I think how does Alicio still start? So bang average. I don't know, it might just be me. He's not up to it. No, he still struggles quite a bit, doesn't he? No, Alicio, Johnny better stop walking. Start playing rugby. It's a lovely place that has been ruined slowly. Now, the scrum about to take place. Is it the Scottish man that wears the dresser and plays the flutes? Where's the dresser? That would be a heavy bit of clothing, wouldn't it? You had to wear a whole dresser. Now kicked him behind. It's going to be bouncing up nicely for Darcy Graham, who breaks the line and just dragged down in the second effort. Carlo Tazzano over the ball, and he's given away the advantage. Now, that was a bit rough because the ref never told him not to do what he was doing. Little chip in behind. Now Scotland have the opportunity to add 3 more points. Who would win? Best tier 2 players in the world, or best tier 1 players. If they had a match, would it be 50-50? No, probably not. I'd assume that the best tier 1 players would win. If that's what you mean. You get rid of that not straight law, just throw it in. If it gets, it gets, it says Neil. Is it Lebanon play today? Not that I know of, but that doesn't mean that they don't. Because, like, there are a lot of teams that do play international rugby, even the ones that aren't really noted in terms of the World Rugby website. There are still other internationals. That one's gone over from Finn Russell, now making the score 10 points to 3 in favour of the Scottish. I must make a strong coffee well, Scottish whiskey and kilts and bagpipes, music to my ears, says Shalom. 3.5 minutes into the second half, and we've already seen some points on the board for Scotland. Hello from Murrayfield area, Edinburgh, Scotland, says Joe Parker. What's the weather like where you are, Joe, at the moment? At the game, it doesn't look too bad, so hopefully it's the same for yourself. Now over the ball, Australia this time get the penalty. Now they're down by 7. So, you have to ask the question, will they go for 3 here to get back into the 7? Michael Cheika, sorry, spelling, is Lebanese. He certainly is. Actually coached the Lebanese Rugby League World Cup side not too long ago. This guy's invented literally everything. I actually saw that Scotland have got the world record in terms of the country with the longest echo from a man-made building or a man-made structure. There you go. Don't ask me how I found that stat. I was looking up stats to do with this game, and then somehow I got into, does Scotland have any world records? And that was one of them, that they have the longest echo for in like a man-made structure. Australia has some great players, no danger, says Kalmack, and Lolosio does get it over, so that will make it now back to the 4-point difference. I read that Japan makes the best whiskey in the world, very expensive as well. And also we have got the Aldressia, Kilts, Laddie Kilts, says Joe Parker. Is there a law you would add to the current ones? I don't know. I feel like there's a few of the laws that they've got at the moment that I would take away. But, yeah, I feel like with already such a weighted law book, we probably wouldn't want to add any more. Update on Suoliti injury. Looked like a wrist injury that took him from the field. Initially, he went for an HIA as well, so I don't actually know if he's passed that. But if he hasn't passed it, then he won't be playing up against Ireland next week. Australia have invented, says Fluffy. Kicked behind from Finn Russell, and the mark is called from Andrew Callaway. Now getting ready to boot this one towards touch. WTF has Australia invented. I'm sure we can find something. One moment. While Andrew Callaway kicks this one towards the touch line. Inventions that changed the world. Australia have had a few. Speedos. They invented the Speedos. A pacemaker, that's quite handy. That's probably stopped some people from dying. Now that one's going to be thrown in nicely. Jamie Ritchie claims it at line-out time. Pass was behind Finn Russell, but straightens now. Going across Darcy Graham, and then the drop ball from Blair Kinghorn. Do you think Karevi deserved 3 weeks suspension? Well, it's one of those ones that 3 weeks is pretty brutal, seeing as now he's going to miss the rest of them, but it wasn't the smartest tackle we've ever seen, you know, from Karevi. And I feel like when you're playing that dangerous game of it could be like a penalty or it could be a little bit more, you always have to try and avoid that situation. Losing to other sides is acceptable as long as it isn't England, says Hafid there. And Ray Gunn, says Brian. In Scotland, a few inventions, hey, ballpoint pen, I think, says Hilton. And they should uninvent the Speedo, says Dan. Underarm. Australia didn't make Pavlova. You can have that stuff, Hamish, says Xavier. Didn't Scottish invent rugby? I think it was the English, wasn't it? Was it William Webb Ellis? Playing a bit of football and went, nah, I want to hold this ball. Ray Gunn retired now, I hear, says Dan. And 3 nights of Taylor Swift on the bounce. Ain't great, though, says Joe. How'd that come about? And English invented rugby, says Sally. The label says, or not says made and bottled in Scotland, stay away, says Daniel. Now 47 minutes in, another scrum happening in this game. Had a lot of them throughout it. William Webb Ellis, English schoolboy, everyone should know that. There's Xavier. Now ball's fed in by Gordon. Just inside of the Scottish half. That looks like it's going to be a scrappy one, and the penalty does go the way of Australia again in the scrums. This looks like there might be some sort of injury on the ground, though, for one of the Aussie players. Aussies invented the onesie male swimsuit. Genius, says Kieran. Next year is going to be awesome. ABs and Wallabies looking revived, says Dan. And anybody who beats Australia and England is fine by me, says Jeremy. Now that one's going to be kicked into touch. Penicillin and television, says Shalom. So they've just said that they're going in at an angle there, Scotland, who have been very close to winning a couple of these scrums. It's just the angle that they're driving at that's getting them in trouble. With the ref, here comes Harry Wilson, pins his ears back, trying to get over that ball was Jamie Ritchie, your referee, almost getting cleaned up there in the process. Now Lulisio almost goes through. Where in New Zealand do you live, Hamish? In the South Island of New Zealand, about halfway up. Big run from Wilson, and he puts the ball down, picked up by Xander Fagerson. And now the advantage in favour of the Scottish. Big open space here. Blair Kinghorn, the scramble defence of the Australians, does open up again. Valentini with the jumping tackle, but Ben White, great pace shown by him. Oh, that's bad, is it not? They've said he hasn't changed his line, but he did drop his shoulder into the player who was chasing through, and Ben White is wounded from the shot. Who was the player of the year for the awards later? Says Stephen, I would go Peter Steph-Toy. Right, they're going to have a look at it. This looked like, yes, he didn't change his line, but he turned and went like that. Dropped the shoulder right into the middle of Ben White. If that's Tom Wright at the back as well, he's already been a bit dirty throughout the rest of this game. Yep, but what's Tom Wright? Bomb. Drops him. So I think this might be looked at again. South Island, you got a massive backyard, says Neville. And we have got their Americans invented space. Before there was no space, only holes. Right, they've got them on screen. They're going to be checking this one. Peter Steph-Toy, says Shazza. Right, they're going to look at the replay again. I think Tom Wright has let once again his emotions get the better of him here. It happens in every close game that Australia's ever had. He ends up doing some dumb stuff. Yeah, no, that's not good from Tom Wright. Because he has slightly changed his line. And then puts the shoulder in. They've said there it's because Ben White takes a dive. I see no part of that, of Ben White taking a dive there. So he goes for the chip. So they're going to say that Tom Wright hasn't really moved as he's held his ground. Probably didn't have to drop the shoulder like he did, but I think they're going to say it's all right. So the Aussie commentators are sure he's protecting himself. They've said he's braced for impact. How is he supposed to go, says Stefan? Yeah, he can't really go anywhere in that scenario. I think it's going to be a goal line dropout. Trouble for Australia? No, I think they're going to be all right. But I don't know about the Aussie commentator saying that Ben White's taken a dive. I think it's just been that two men have gone into the same area. It's going to be play on now. And it was grounded, so goal line dropout as the call. No foul play there, says Jimbo. I don't eat the Scottish chocolate, says Fluffy. Okay, see only two Pilotta just here in the call. Made with a glass and a half of fresh yellow snow. And refs still involved these days, misses with the flow. And we have good there. It's player of the year, not player of the last 2 years. It's Peter Steph-Toy. Says Anthony. I've read it as a whole heap of stuff. Google it. TV, phone, penicillin, tarmac, Bank of England. Says Joe. And change line. Tell us about your omelette technique. I cannot do that. That is secret information. but it turns out pretty well. Now, nice carry forward from Ferguson. Do it for your Aussie neighbour, Hamish. Go Australia, says Johan. What's happening now? Currently still very close. 49 minutes in, only 4 points difference between these two sides. Scotland are starting to get a little bit more free-flowingness with the way that they're running the ball. And with the exception of 1 or 2 handling errors, they're starting to find a lot of open space. Passing out wide. Well handled by Rory Dash. Can't beat freshly caught Haggis. Big run from Duan van der Merwe. Tackled by Carlo Tizzano, who's on a 2-man clean-out. Now Xander Ferguson. Australia starting to slow down a little bit here. Finn Russell running it hard. Tackled by Angus Bell. 10 metres from the line here. Going out wide. Past to Hugh Jones. Darcy Graham cuts inwards. 7 metres out from the line. It's got some better cash, leading to the modern banking system. Do you reckon Gatlin will be fired? Probably not, because if he does get fired, people don't realise that Welsh Rugby have to pay him out, which is like $2 million. But now out wide, Duan van der Merwe. He will cut back in, and it's the second try of the match for the Scottish. Exactly what an Aussie commentator would say. Says Suckerbull, come on Scotland, you can do this. Says Rhea. Secret omelette business, says Fluffy. Nick White needs a hiding, although he's not even on the field as of yet. So it's slightly unfortunate for him. And we have, what the hell do I start to believe again in Aussie rugby? Scotland have an absolute howler today. Makes it harder than it needs to be, or making it harder than it needs to be. Welcome in, Kerr. You are doing well. Just checking the grounding, or not the grounding, sorry, but just the build-up of the play. Australia still have more to do to be up there again. And I chased the haggis round a mountain, then I woke up, says Calmac. What are my thoughts on the rice price in Australia? I haven't actually checked the rice price as of late. And the kick from Finn Russell just goes over as well. That'll make the score now 17 points to 6. In favour of the in favour of the Scottish. Go the Wallabies, Brisbane here, says Dover King. And come on, Scotland, says Power Bite. And I've got Scottish legs, Irish here, Welsh sensitivity, English repression, and French attitude. Problem. Well, there you go. 52 minutes in, and we've hardly seen Duan van der Merwe throughout the rest of this game. But now, pretty much first decent run from him, and he scores a try. Right, Pollard's on the field for Paenga Mosa, Kailea on the field for Angus Bell, and then Zane Ungor has been put onto the field for Alan Alaratoa. If you take out the Savas from Scotland, do they even have a team? Says JP, I'm sure that they would be able to find plenty of players. I know that that's one of those ones, like, everyone seems to still reference it, but at the end of the day, like, if they're eligible to play for a country, like, I don't see the problem with them playing for that country. You know, whether or not it's through heritage or whether through where their parents are from and whatnot. But yeah, I still don't see the big, like, talking point of it. If they've qualified for the eligibility is the word I was trying to get out, so my tongue decided to take over my whole mouth. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. Now, Carlo Tizzano tackled well. Haggis isn't an animal, says yesterday. No, just a part of one. Now going back across to the left-hand side, Tom Wright. Just joined Scotland, doing good so far. Says Shay, they've gone all right. They've had some decent moments, like their handling in the first half was certainly hurting them. Oh, that's diving on a breakdown, although they're actually going to get themselves the penalty there. Scotland. No. Then offside, so it's actually going to be Australia's penalty. That's all good if everyone here does it. And Scotland also have people playing for other countries. It's just becoming a very boring comment and argument, says Kerr. Well, it's a good step from Len Ikitau. Almost got around Jamie Ritchie. Zipper ball by Scotland. More of the same by to win out, says Jimbo. And now that one's going to be kicked out. Wallabies about 22 metres out. I can't think of a single Scottish invention that changed the world, Cheers, Albert. I mean, they've got a few, don't they? Well, I mean, we already Googled what has Australia invented. We'll Google what Scotland's invented, eh? When we have our next stoppage. Artificial refrigeration. They designed the fridge, did they? I use a fridge all the time. It's going to be a knock-on. Now, Australia will once again have themselves the scrum. A great comeback from the Aussies just watched, and great rugby museum in the town of Rugby, the birthplace of the game, and great Weatherspoons too. Scotland might do the upsets. He's had a Hone, TV, phone, penicillin. There's 3 easy ones. Those are 3 pretty handy ones. You need a few hours for what Scotland brought to the world. Says James P. Scott's playing for Italy for free pasta. Says Cal Mac. To be fair, pasta can be expensive. So like, I'd probably take that. 25 minutes left. Scotland has many inventions, more than most countries. Australia invented the Velcro gloves, made it easier to catch sheep and F them, says Plumer. I don't think that's really a reputation Australia has, though. Do Pollard play for Australia? Billy Pollard does. And Kerr, don't forget money. Yeah, cash was invented in Scotland, wasn't it? Someone said earlier on, I just acted like I knew, but I actually didn't till now. Premier commentary on Sunday, says Jeremy Rogers. Jake Gordon. Ready to put the ball in again. We've had a lot of scrums in this game. We've actually seen quite a few going the way of the Australians up till this point. Now Gordon goes across to Len Ikitau. He's kind of had to take on the role of being the crash ball of 12 and 13 here, seeing as they no longer have Joseph Suali'i out there on the field. Now Harry Wilson round the side of the breakdown with a pick and go. Pierce Gorman going for the turnover. Maybe, yeah, he's lost his footing there for Scotland again. Is there a game after this? There is. It's going to be England versus Japan, and the chance of it being one-sided is relatively high, but there's just a tiny little thin chance that maybe we could see an upset, so that's why we're going to be doing that one for the final game of international rugby this week. And great Kerr, watching my Scott Bros bash in Southern Hemisphere. About time we got some calls our way. Says Xavier. Yeah, just in off his feet there for Scott Cummings. I've said not supporting the body weight. Scotland invented good whiskey. Says Andre G. I don't even know how you make whiskey. I know it's like it's in a barrel, isn't it? The wine's in a barrel too. Why is it so many things are made in a barrel? Now rolling forward. Getting close for the Australians. This one's going to be dragged down and well defended by Scotland, who now have themselves another scrum. I'm really questioning the reliability of your sources regarding inventions, says Albert. England was invented in Scotland, I wonder. Moving to New Zealand, says Calmac. And Scotland, the light bulb, I think. And the Jamaican flag Scotland created. And invented the bagpipes, which could be life-changing for your neighbours. And genuine consensus is that Scotland are throwing away opportunities and missing out on points all over the place. Yeah, unfortunately, just not quite as clinical as some wanted to see for this one. Whiskey is essentially distilled beer. There you go. The bicycle. There's a clip of me and George on a tandem bicycle, and unfortunately the back wheel snapped in half. It didn't go well. And the video, I don't know what hard drive it's on. I got like 7 hard drives, but one of them has that video of us falling off the bike because of a snapped back wheel. That's going to be a penalty now to Scotland at scrum time. That's probably one of their first scrum penalties they've actually got in their favour. Whiskey is Scottish, whiskey is Irish. Whiskey is Scottish, whiskey is Irish. Oh, with the E in there. The barrel is what adds flavour. The whiskey is made from distilled, boiled mixture of grains, says Graham. Decent kick downfield. Score predictions, Hamish, says Kerr. For this game or for England-Japan? Which one we talking? This game I went, since Scotland were home, I said Scotland by less than 7. But I don't know if Australia should have 1 try in them, I would like to think. The MRI scan, refrigeration, and the steam engine, says Fraser. And Scotch whisky raw ingredients, malted barley, fresh spring water, and yeast. Whisky was created in Wales, says Music is Life. And the rake stuck a couple of wood blowy things into a dead goat. The Bruce steam engine, that's a big first word. This one updated prediction now with 20 to go. I think Scotland, if we're basing it off what we've seen in the last 10 minutes, they're currently up by 11. I would say there's a chance they win this game. I'll give them one more try, and I'll probably give Australia one try eventually. So I'll say Scotland by the same margin, except just with a try extra for both of these teams. And maybe an extra 3 points for Scotland along the way too. So whatever that works out to be. 27 points to 13 will go. Now Tom Wright kicks this one towards the touchline. Scotland again will have the line out. We have got there a flushing toilet. Included an S-trap that trapped water in the pipe, says Andre G. Haggis, says Jason. And we have got there 33-11 final for me. Also, you're saying, wait, that's 16 more points, isn't it? I think. 16 more, you're going... I'm trying to do the maths in my head and my maths isn't working. But a couple more tries for Scotland anyway in that regard and one for the Aussies. Now short ball from Sione Tuipulotu on the halfway line. Hugh Jones now quickly recycled by Matt Fagerson, who went for the pick and go, almost stolen by the Australians. Ben White is going to be an advantage in favour of Scotland again here. 26-24 for me. Don't forget the battery acid, says Nick. It is kind of weird when you really think about what's been invented. Like, who decided that to get a battery to work, you got to put, like, acid in it? And, like, how do you even come about that? Like, was it, like, something went wrong and now you've got, like, that acidity? Or what, you know? There's a lot of stuff that I think about. Like, even just, like, this stuff in front of me to be working and you guys are on the other side of the world, but you can hear me and you can see me and it's pretty much live. It's just weird. And should never have anything with a good whiskey, single malt and nothing else. Enjoy your whiskey, don't spoil it, says James. What one do you have with Fanta? Is that vodka and Fanta? Tim Tam is the best invention from Australia. According to the comments, Scotland basically invented everything, says Albert. I mean, they've listed you quite a few things that have been invented in Scotland. And to be fair, you did say nothing's really been invented there, so I feel like they were just all showing you how much has. AC/DC, a great Scottish band, exported to Australia, old Akadaka as they call them down south. And score, please. Are you working today? Says Soraya. So the score at the moment, we are 62 minutes into this game. And currently 17 points to 6. Looks like Scotland are kicking this one for the corner, and I will be working from about 12 onwards. So, yeah, pretty much we'll end that England versus Japan stream. I'll have something to eat, have about a 3.5 or 4 hours sleep, and then get up and then go to work. Dissimilar metals with an electrolyte produces a current. Was discovered by Volta, says Graham. Now that's going to be a loose. Oh, Valentini just boots that ball downfield. And tell you what, Max Jorgensen is winning this foot race. Needs the ball to sit up, and it does. This will be almost a full field try for the Australians if they can get that next pass. Cross kick from Tate McDermott. That was poor. Was the mark taken? Yes, he did try to call it. Took a little while to call it, but did get it in the end. But now, big mistake made from Australia. They could have had the try there, just needed the right pass. I think McDermott, though, decided to go for the cross kick instead. A vodka Fanta lemon. That wasn't invented by the Scots. Says Fleshin. And Scotland made or wrote, and the band plays Waltzing Matilda. Says Cal Mick. Alcohol doesn't freeze. Says Joe. That's true. Although beer does, because of the other stuff in it. I know my mum and dad, they used to tell me a story about, it was a bloke who made homebrew, and he put it in the freezer to make it colder quicker, and then forgot about it, and then his freezer blew up. Not ideal. Bayliss makes his way onto the field. That is for Rory Darsh. Dire Straits, Duran, Simple Minds, also Scottish. Vodka and Iron Brew in Scotland. And the dream run comes to an end, unless, of course, they can get themselves a try very soon. Like, they're only down by 11. And that was the perfect chance for them to be able to fire back and get a try of their own. Now back across, Noel Alicio. There's the Lukan Salakai Lotto. Also, Australia have just got this really big reputation of coming back late in a game. I must be friends with your parents, Hamish, says MTYC. Colour photography, says Jimbo. That's why you can make distilled liquor from frozen beer and cider, says Zender. 25 metres out, short ball and knocked on by Noah Lalicio. The next game that is taking place, ladies and gentlemen, it is kicking off at 5:10 a.m. So this game will be finishing in around 15 minutes. That'll take us through to 4:25, and then from there we've got 30 minutes until the next live stream will be taking place. Yeah, but similar to an argument, South African players in the Scottish team, ACDC, are Scottish, says Kerr. And just tuned in, is that score for real? What happened with the Aussies from a South African? I mean, it is the real score. They've looked all right, Australia. They've just not really been able to finish the job. Like, they've had a lot of dominance when it comes to scrum time. They've had about 4 or 5 penalties in their favour. Internet too weird for my small brain to figure out. Mine too, to be honest. Like, even like Wi-Fi, and then the fact that you can just get data like on your phone. Well, I can't because my phone's broken, or at least it's pretty much dead. I tried to send a Snapchat yesterday to someone, and my phone died for 4 hours. It was very sad. Now, penalty goes the way of Scotland just after I've praised the Australian scrum. I have made the quick chilling beer in the freezer. Make more mistakes than I would like to remember. Good morning, Amish, says Jeffrey. Welcome in, Jeffrey. Hope you are doing well. Liquor does not freeze, but needs to be 40% proof. Beer is only 4 to 8% alcohol and will freeze in the freezer. I think people are confused. Scotland improved on exercise or existing, I think that is, technology, and didn't actually invent it, says Albert. Jim Kerr, of course, Simple Minds. And your mum seems like a lovely person, says Story there. And alcohol does freeze just at a temperature far below household freezers can reach. Just at a temperature far below what normal freezers can reach. Oh, nice piercing run there for Darcy Graham. This could be the moment that could end the game for Scotland if they can get over the line. Here comes Bayliss. Oh, that's poor defence from Australia, and I don't think they've stopped him. This might be the try, yes. Unless, of course, they will check this one just to make sure. And we have got there, it's South Africa, the only team to win the Autumn Games all three, says Soraya. No, France also won all their games. I think they've played 3. Yeah, so France won all 3 of theirs. Australia look like they're going to lose this one. So you've got, France, South Africa, and then I don't know why, but I feel like there's a lower nation that also have got themselves the 3 wins. It's not Italy. Georgia hasn't. Tonga, how many games has Tonga played? Although they are currently playing Georgia, so that might change. Do not ingest frozen alcohol. Rod Stewart. It was fun while it lasted. This was actually invented by King John's chefs before he was shot by the French. Says John, but that is now going to be a missed kick for the Scottish, making it 22 points to 6. Tonga lost to USA. Okay, so not what else have USA done? Who have they beaten? I know it's a team. The one that I'm trying to think of is around that kind of 15 to 20 mark. Lost to USA and Romania. Okay, so they've had a bad run. It's the USA. They won 3 games. Is that who I'm thinking of as well? So yeah, France, South Africa, USA. What happened from last weekend? Australia playing terribly. Yeah, they've had a better performance than this game in the past. That is for sure throughout November. But, that's close to the touchline. Well handled. They are now down by the 16 points and another steal in the breakdown. USA beat Portugal, Spain and Tonga. Says Andre. And, that was bad defence from the Wallies, says Albert. And it does sneak in every once in a while. They don't quite get that defence right. Now, Hugh Jones. Please tell us about omelettes. I'm hungry. Clearly, I live vicariously. I spend my afternoons watching you watching rugby. My wife thinks we are a thing, says Robert. Might have to make an omelette after the All Blacks. After the England versus Japan. Oh, Kinghorn's through again. Wallabies are tripping over themselves, trying to make tackles. I think Harry Potter just slipped over. In fact, he's hardly been seen throughout this game. And dang Aussie got banged up by the Scots, bruh, says Plumer. And Wallabies back to earth with a thud, are believing in their own hope. Disappointing, says Paul. That's going to be a loose ball. Langy Gleeson gets it back. Still 10 minutes left. We just had to accept that without the Scots, we'd be living in huts playing skinned drums for entertainment, says Jimbo. And a good clearing kick from Noah Lolesio. Thought this game would be a close one. I actually did too. I went Scotland by less than 7. But I wasn't predicting Scotland win by 16. In fact, I don't think many people were overall. We can probably go right back to the start of the live stream and see if there's any predictions that were somewhere close to this. Oh, wow, we actually have to go back quite a far way. We've had a lot of comments on this live stream. I will mention it is greatly appreciated. Started in a different direction right at the start, of course. Right, we got the likes of 28-24. We got, that's about it. Yeah, that's Scotland by 15 from George. George won't be a mile off if George is still here. I don't know if George is still here, though. Now going back across, Scotland open space, inside ball, and beautifully done. And it's another try. George is now not correct, unfortunately, because that is a second try in quick succession for Scotland. I predicted Scotland 22-6. Well, in that case, you would be wrong, JP. Unless, of course, something else happens here. Scotland's invention claims are like who really discovered America, says Albert. I felt silly having voted that Australia would win, says Daryl, and not happy with the Scottish win. Or, sorry, not unhappy, says Jan. Scotland too good, says Harry Horne, as McWright injured. I think he had some sort of injury last week, didn't he? Hamish, have you got an old phone? Sometimes the producers make old phones have problems. So you think of buying a new phone, says Brian? Yeah, my phone is pretty old. I got an iPhone 6S, which I think most people have moved on from by now. I should, but to get a decent iPhone that will last a while, that's going to cost as much as a ticket to South Africa. So I think I'm going to have to hold off for a while. That one's going to miss away to the side for Finn Russell. Really hasn't been striking them too well off the kicking tee. A no conversion. One more try and then unconnected try for Australia, please. A 33-11 final. Says Kerr. And there's a route, says Graham. And 6 is here too, says Zender. A lot of Scots rugby fans are on the fence about Gregor Townsend. This game was a big game for Tooney. His job was on the line. So it's Scotland to blame for global warming. And just had to leave for 20 minutes. Oh, what happened to Australia? Man in the bin or something? No man in the bin. Just constantly not tackling, I think is the best way of describing it. Pretty much what happened to them up against Argentina in the second half. But now they have taken the quick tap with the penalty awarded to the Wallabies. They are sitting 20 metres out from the Scottish line. A couple more changes being made. Hurd and Craig making his way onto the field. That is going to be dropped by Langy Gleeson this time. Go Android. You won't be able to upgrade your iOS on an old phone or on an old iPhone. And the Oppo phones are insane. To be honest, there's a dual SIM, one high resolution for 200, says Plumer. And Scotland was able to enforce their style and pace of the game. That is what winning teams do. Hamish is such a Scottish name. It is, but it wasn't done on purpose. It was more so just they said I look like a Hamish. I don't know what our percentage of Scottishness is, but I don't think it's very high. But, yeah. I think it was just I looked like a Hamish, so they went with Hamish. True story. Currently 7 minutes remaining. Take McDermott to feed the ball in. 124 tackles made by Australia, missing 34. Scotland have made 93 tackles and they've missed 8. Does a family not have an old phone you can use? Says Xavier. Yeah, like my phone still, it works occasionally, right? But it's just if it dies, like if it runs out of battery, which happens pretty much every day, it just takes a very long time to realise how to turn back on. On Australia's going to lose. Like at the moment, it's on the table because I forgot to bring it over here, but it will be like, I charged it to 100%. It will be on like 30% at the moment, even though it got off charge like an hour and a half ago, or 2 hours actually, because we started streaming 2 hours 5 ago. I thought it was really good value for money. Still have an iPhone 4 that works. Says Zenda, but the crowd are singing the Flower of Scotland. Crowd loving it at the moment, how well Scotland have gone in the second half. Just buy a bring a portable charger with you everywhere. I could, but I don't think it's so much the battery is the problem, but it's also like sometimes it just doesn't like register that I've put it in. So you are a stereotypical Hamish. I use a military phone, great battery life, says Sally. You basically need to look after your stuff, says Zenda. Yeah, pretty much. I've had the phone about 5 years. I'm pretty happy with its shelf life. Now another line out here for Billy Pollard. And nicely taken by McDermott, who doesn't often have to claim the line out. Kicked him behind. Foot race. Harry Potter the Wizard. Did he get it down? I'm not sure. I think he thinks he did. I think he's pretty happy. I have a Nokia from 1994 still working. Can send it to you. Out of the 5 million New Zealanders, it has been estimated that 1.2 million have roots from Scotland. Or sorry, 1 to 2 million. Yeah, so I'd assume there'd be some sort of tie. Right, they've checked to see if he's onside, which he is. I think this might be the try. I think it's whether or not he gets the grounding, though, before he flips over. Might be dead and goal is the comment from the TMO. They just want to check this. He has to ground it before he does his roll. If he doesn't get it down there, I think he'd be dead. We're going to see the replay now. Can he get it down first? So he grabs the ball. He's got it there. Oh, he lost the ball. It's a knock on. Or is it? No, it might not. Oh. Well, if they don't call that as a knock on, which they may actually say because he's still in the motion of... Okay, if that's not a knock on, that is going to be a try, just. I think because it's never touched the ground and the ball's still on him, it isn't knocked forward, if I'm correct. But he somehow got it down. You could say he needed a little bit of magic to get that one on the turf. He's had a bit of a juggle with the ball, but eventually gets it back in the grass and just puts it down before the foot goes over the dead ball line. That is the one benefit of such a massive in-goal area. Last try wins, says Ryan. I actually don't think this will be the last try of the game, though. I think there's still plenty more coming in this match. Because the left leg is up in the air. I think this is going to be a try. That's a try, says Xavier. And how good are you at the haka, mate? Poor. Very poor. I think they're just looking at this again, which I think they've looked at about 5 too many times. As if it's just the grounding that they're worried about. He has got it down. You do a great job keeping the commentary on track. Not an easy task. Says Jane, at times we do get slightly waylaid and then people get angry at us for talking about things that aren't the rugby. Go Australia, what's happening, says Wayne. So they have got the try and they will move up to 11. Harry Potter and his magic wands, abracadabra try, and the boom, says Bauer bite. And Wales got 12 losses. Does that help? Says Stephen. Yeah, their longest ever losing streak. Try on debut for Harry Potter. Great skills by Potter, says Jimbo. How much will you be commentating England versus Japan? We certainly will be, yes. How would you rate the Hendrickson brothers' performance yesterday? Jaden was better than he was up against Scotland, but still there were a couple slight issues. And then Jordan, I think he did overall pretty well at 10. He, once again, also, like his brother, had a few handling errors slightly earlier, but then seemed to find his rhythm as the match wore on. So that is great news for Rassi, worst comes to worst. Do you remember when you said you would do a huck on live stream? Scotland won? I don't think I do remember that, JP. Get back to the omelette discussion, please. I love the Kiwi Lads podcast, says Dwayne. And easier getting that down than catching the golden snitch. If you say Harry Potter is your favourite player, people will think it's just because of the name. That is true. You think Gatland's going to get sacked or not? I don't think so. Because the only way that they can get rid of Gatland is if he resigns. Because or else they have to pay him like $2 million to buy him out of his contract. So they're actually in a bit of trouble. Because they've thrown so much money at him without realizing that if it doesn't go well, they have no backup plan. Because they will pretty much, like, losing $2 million just like that would be brutal. Because then you still have to try and get a new coach. Game improved as soon as Heinrich replaced Hendrickson. Oh, like Reinach? Is that who we're talking about? I was so confused for a second there. Sorry, got you on mute now. Can you hear the singing from the stadium? That is fair enough. It did sound pretty cool before when the crowd was singing Flower of Scotland. I know Trey was out, wrong decision, ref. I don't think he was out. I think that he was fine in that regard. But I was just wondering whether or not they'd call it as a knock-on. Are your secret ingredient in your omelette is bicarb, Hamish? Says Shazza. No, it's not. How many total tries? We've seen 1 from Australia and 4 from Scotland? 3 from Scotland. It might be it's either 3 or 4. Finn Russell's missed a few kicks, which I think makes it challenging for us to do the maths, but I think it's 4? Is Harry Potter playing rugby now? He certainly is. Oh, says Kerr. And now it's going to be another penalty advantage for the Scottish. And another penalty. He won all the majors in Quidditch, says Ryan. And Gatlin will just be eased upstairs, not sacked. Says Fleshin, and one more try coming maybe, says Kerr. I can't wait till Gandalf plays for Scotland. If Harry Potter. And 4 Scotland, 1 Australia, says Harry Horney. And 2 tablespoons cold water, says Shaz. Nope. Firing the Wales coach won't solve anything. Look how bad their clubs are doing, says Albert. Yeah, like, I honestly don't think Gatlin's the problem. Well, that's weird. I was saying that, and then I looked at the chat, and I see Nicholas's first sentence is, I don't think Gatlin is the problem. I almost said that right word for word before looking at it. A lot of senior players have retired. It's a small pool that they have to choose from. They're a pretty young team. I'm just your local degenerate sports betting enthusiast, says Jonathan. So in that case, who'd you back for this one, Jonathan? What's the score you're looking at? Or your amount of tries, I assume it is. How many did you back? He has a break clause in his contract after the Six Nations. It's not that expensive to sack him, says Yvonne. Yeah, it'll still cost him a little bit of money though. Voldemort sounds suspiciously South African. All loose ball. Australia cleaning it up. Still 1 minute remaining on the clock here with the score being Scotland by 14. I think I got the score slightly wrong. Oh, drop kick went over from Finn Russell, but they'll go back for the original penalty. Just got the bets in for next week. Ireland to beat the Wallabies by 20, says Paul. And under 44 points, under 4.5 total tries. Australia under 16.5 points. Okay, so you've lost, unfortunately. Only just by half a try. What's your best pickup line, says JP. Honestly, I can't even think of one. I feel like there is a good one that I've thought of before, but don't have one. Unfortunately, can't think of one off the top of my head. Normally, my best tactic is if anyone looks at you and you haven't been talking to them, They look over at you and you think they're making eye contact, sprint in the other direction, and then you avoid a conversation. That's the way you do it. It's worked many times. And not the combos, just individual bets. Oh, okay, well then you got 2 out of 3 in this case so far, unless Australia score right now. And if they do, they're just about to ruin it for you, because that would cancel out all of them if Australia score right now. Langy Gleeson around the side. I think he's just short. Oh, well, this is going to be bad if they get over here. They're trying to say it's held up, but they won't let the ball come out the back door. And it's there now for Billy Pollard. Flicks it off to Isaac Kailea. Is Australia in position? They are indeed. And they are just short of the try line. Tom Wright protects it there. Callaway thought about going himself. He's nowhere near big enough to be doing the pick and go for this Aussie side. Yes, says Caretaker. Are you really bad if they score, says Jonathan. I make omelettes as a good pickup line. It's a classic move, Hamish, says Yvonne. Oh, reaching out. Did he get there? No. Still short. Now McDermott couldn't decide what way to go. Harry Wilson dropped down. That's close. It's a knock on, and that will be the end of the game. 27 points to 13. My eggs taste good. It's a great pickup line, says Zenda. I feel like if you're a female and you say that, it could mean a whole different thing. I have a Sony Xperia E4 you can have, invented by the Scot, says Stephen. Start your own TikTok channel with those dating tactics, says Stretch. You don't need an iPhone. Samsung phones are just as good but cheaper, and I'm South African, so I don't mind the Southern Hemisphere teams doing well, but money is money, says Jonathan. And FBW sucks, says Ryan, and thanks for keeping me company at work. See you for the next one, says Yvonne. And the next one that we are doing, it is going to be starting in 23 minutes' time, and that is the matchup between England and Japan. Now, the match itself is going to start in about 40 minutes' time, but we are starting with 15 minutes of build-up for that matchup. But nonetheless, I do thank you all very much for tuning in. Effing yes, says Cal Mac there. And GG, says John. And a very good Scottish victory, well done, says Kernowick, and good one, Scotland, says Harry Horney. Yeah, after a little bit of a rough first half, they came back and really did well. They just managed to hang on to the ball a little bit better and just find those gaps. Cheers, Hamish. Have you got 20 quid? Says Kerr. Oh, sorry, says Kieran. You got 20 quid. What's that a quote from? Is that from the In-Betweeners? Maybe. We got a super sticker from Sally. Thank you very much. Do you ever get enough time to sleep, my brother? Not a huge amount, but we make do with what we can. Like, after this live stream, we are going to be, like, after Japan, England, I'll be sleeping for about 4 hours before work. So that's a pretty good effort for a weekend. Harry Wilson looking a little bit disappointed with that one. I see you for the next game, next Six Nations champs victors, says Neville, and thanks, says Dennis, in there as well. And come on, Japan, says Calmac. Yeah, the thing is, every favourite at the moment has won. So, are we going to see the first underdog get themselves the victory in the Japanese? Or, oh, hang on, while we're at it, we might as well have a look and see what Georgia Tonga's score is, as we currently sit. Georgia are up 12-0 with only 19 minutes to go. So I would say they've probably got that one. What work do you do? I do work as a builder. And we have got there, thank for the great channel. Greetings from Johannesburg. See you at the Japan-England game. Well, Gatlin has piped down of late. Had much to say about South Africa in particular. Wonder what happened. Says Jane. I'll see you in the next one. This Hamish's pickup line. Says Lilia B. Does it work? And you're right again, Hamish. Thank you. Says Daniel. And we have got there, see you for the next game. And thanks, says Dennis there as well. But Scotland, overall, 3 out of 4 for their November internationals. Just losing the one game up against South Africa. Other than that, they've been doing very well. Scotland scored third most points ever against Australia with the 27 points to 13. Great again, Hamish. Thank you. Says Daniel. And cheers, Hamish, says Kernovic. And there as well. And thanks, Hamish. Love from Cape Town, says Shazza. So yeah, we've got Japan versus England. And then next week we have got, hopefully, Australia versus Ireland, as well as the URC matchup that's taken place, the South African Derby. So we have to try and juggle both of them. Well, we come back, so I'd say it does. says Lilia B. And see you soon, mate. Says Flesh in there as well. But nonetheless, I do thank you all very much for tuning in. I will see you all in about 20 minutes' time for England versus Japan.